the day I moved in with my husband. His mom handed me a paper and said, "This is how you'll run the house, just like I do." My husband agreed and told me to follow it. I smiled, gave him a paper of my own, and after reading it, he suddenly begged me not to leave. I married Brian, not his real name, 6 months ago. We met in college in Austin, Texas. He was sweet, kind, and always talked about how close he was to his mom, Anita. I thought it was cute. My own mom passed away when I was a teenager, so seeing him call his mom every night made me feel like he came from a loving home. I thought Anita could become like a mom to me, too. Our wedding was small and simple, held in the Texas Hill Country, just close friends, some wine, and dancing under string lights. We planned to live with Brian's parents for a while to save money since rent in San Antonio was too high. It seemed like a smart choice. But the moment we arrived at his parents' house, something felt off. Anita was standing outside with a paper in her hands. No smile, no hug, not even a welcome home. She just said, "Here, this is how you'll run the house, just like I do." The paper was a laminated, color-coded schedule. I laughed at first. I thought it was a joke or maybe a strange family tradition. But Brian stood next to her and said seriously, "She's right. Follow it exactly." No smile, he meant it. That's when something clicked in me. This wasn't a simple list of chores. It was a strict, hour-by-hour schedule of how to run her house, not ours. Weekdays included things like wake up at 5:30 a.m., laundry by 5:45, cook a hot breakfast, no cereal, serve Anita her coffee at 7 a.m., clean all bathrooms by 7:30, plan groceries, vacuum, mop, bake something sweet by 2 p.m., prepare lunch, no leftovers, iron clothes even if not needed, fold laundry, but only mine and Brian's, not hers, start dinner at 4:30, serve it at 6 o'clock, clean up, then ask for permission to have free time. Weekends, deep cleaning, spa setups, even foot massages for Anita. I looked at Brian and asked, "You're not serious, right?" He said, "You're part of the family now. We all have roles. This is yours." I must have made a face because Anita jumped in and said, "If this is going to be a problem, maybe you should go back to your mother's." Brian didn't say anything. He just moved closer to her. He didn't defend me at all. That's when I knew I was on my own in that house. I smiled and said, "Sure, I'll take it seriously." They put me in the guest room, not the master bedroom. They said we'd get that room after I proved myself as a wife, like I was earning a promotion. That night, I stayed up staring at the ceiling and made a plan. At 3 a.m., I typed up a new schedule on my laptop. I called it Exit Plan. Day 1, go along with everything. Let them think they're in charge. Day 2, start saving proof, screenshots, recordings, anything I can. Day 3, pack only the essentials. Day 4, talk to a lawyer. Day 5, mail the schedule to Brian and Anita with a note, "Thanks for the experience." I printed it, folded it, and hid it in my suitcase. Then I followed the routine, got up early, made breakfast, served Anita her coffee in her glass mug, just the way she liked it. Brian left for work without even looking at me. Anita followed me around all morning, correcting everything, vacuumed the curtains too. Brian likes his shirts stacked vertically. "Did you check the fridge temperature?" I stayed quiet. By 2 p.m., I started recording audio on my phone. I caught her saying, "You'll never run this house like I do, but if you try hard enough, maybe Brian won't leave you like his last girlfriend." Wait, what? That night, after she went to bed, I used the downstairs computer. On the desk was a printed email from Anita. I got curious and opened one titled about Brian's last engagement. I found out Brian had been engaged before. It ended just 2 months after the girl moved in with Anita. The email mentioned things like no boundaries, emotional stress, and even a breakdown. The girl had accused Anita of being manipulative and controlling, and Brian took his mom's side. Sound familiar? I woke up at 5:30 a.m., got dressed, and left a short note on the fridge. "I'm stepping out for a few errands. Be back soon." But I never went back. I had already packed my suitcase and left it in the car the night before. I drove straight to a hotel, called my cousin in Houston, she's a lawyer, and sent her everything, the schedule, the recordings, the texts. She called me 30 minutes later and said, "You need to get out completely. You've got enough to walk away. Let's do this right." That night, I texted Brian. I left a new schedule on the table. "Read it." He read it. Then he called me crying. I didn't answer. I wanted to. I wanted to believe he finally understood what he'd done, but instead, I sent him one last message. Email me when you're ready to speak like a grown man. Until then, I need space. Then I blocked his number. I stayed at a Holiday Inn near the airport. It wasn't fancy, but I just needed a place to breathe. 2 days passed. I heard nothing. Then one morning, I opened the door to get my food delivery, and Anita was standing right there. She was holding a casserole dish wrapped in foil. Her face looked calm, too calm. She said, "I figured you'd be here. Brian's worried. He hasn't eaten in days." I froze. "How did you find me?" I asked. She smiled and said, "I always keep track of my family." She tried to hand me the casserole, but I didn't take it. Then she gave me an envelope. Inside was a printed Bible verse. "Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord." Ephesians 5 verse 22. Under it, she had written, "This household follows God's word. Please reflect." She had underlined it, signed it, and dated it like it was a contract. I couldn't help it. I laughed. Then I said, "Ma'am, if submission means being your unpaid maid, you can keep this." I handed the paper back, gently closed the door, and locked it. Later, Brian emailed me a long message. He said things like, "I didn't know it was that bad. My mom was just trying to help you fit in. And worst of all, I just thought you'd be more traditional, like we talked about before." I replied with one sentence, "Your version of traditional looks a lot like slavery." He didn't respond. Meanwhile, my cousin Rachel was helping me file for an annulment, but then something wild happened. I got a letter in the mail, from a lawyer. Anita was trying to sue me. Her reason? She said I caused her emotional stress by leaving and abandoning my family duties. I showed the letter to Rachel. She nearly spit out her coffee. "Wait, she's suing you for not being her maid?" "Basically," I said. Rachel called the lawyer listed on the letter. He sounded embarrassed. He said Anita insisted on filing it, but there was no real case. "It won't hold up in court," he said. "Honestly, she's just venting." Then he accidentally let something slip. He said, "She's done this before, with the last girl. We didn't file that one either." The last girl, Brian's ex-fiancée. That's when it hit me. I wasn't just dealing with a toxic family, I was part of a repeating pattern. I became obsessed with finding the last woman. I searched Reddit, Facebook, even reached out to old college acquaintances, and eventually, I found her. Let's call her Sarah. We met for coffee in a quiet little cafe in downtown San Antonio. She had kind eyes and a soft voice. When I told her my story, she leaned back and slowly nodded. "I was engaged to Brian for 6 months, she said. It ended because of his mother." She showed me a scar on her hand from when she burned herself cleaning their oven. "Anita made me redo it twice because I used the wrong sponge," she said. "Brian watched it happen and told me, 'You should have followed her instructions.'" I asked her why she stayed so long. She looked down and said, "Because I thought it was my fault. I thought if I just tried harder, they'd stop." Before I left, Sarah told me something. I wasn't ready for what Sarah told me next. She said Anita used to warn Brian that if he ever chose a woman over her, she'd cut him off, take him out of the will, stop paying his loans. I blinked. "Loans?" Sarah nodded. "Brian's been living off his mom for years. His car, it's in her name. His student loans, she pays them. Even his phone, still on her family plan. He never told me any of that." Later, I sat in my hotel room, just staring at the ceiling. This wasn't just about doing chores or following a schedule. I had married someone who was still a child, emotionally, financially, even spiritually. And his mother? She wasn't letting go. She wasn't just controlling him, she owned him. That's when I realized I could never win. Not because I wasn't enough, but because the whole thing was rigged from the beginning. Brian wasn't just clueless, he was trapped. And no, that doesn't excuse him. He's a grown man. He could have stood up. He could have chosen me. But he didn't. Anita had built a world where he had no spine, no power, and no freedom. And Brian accepted it, because it was easy. But things were about to get worse. While my cousin Rachel was helping with the annulment, she asked for my recent bank statements. She paused and said, "Did you send $2,500 to something called Household Reserve Fund?" I blinked. "What? No." She turned the laptop toward me. There it was, 3 payments between $800 to $900 each. The money went to a joint account with Brian and Anita. I felt sick. He was using our joint bank account to send money to his mom, without telling me. I had a feeling he still had access to the account, but I never thought he'd actually do something like that. I checked the rest of the account history. It got worse. He used our debit card, twice, for groceries at Anita's house. One time, he spent almost $300 at Whole Foods. I emailed him with screenshots. I kept it calm. Using our joint account without my permission is theft. I'm shutting it down by tonight. You have 24 hours to respond. He replied 15 minutes later. It wasn't theft. I needed help keeping the house running. You left. What was I supposed to do? No, I'm sorry. No, I should have protected you. You left. I thought that was the end. But Anita had one more move. I got an email invitation to a family reconciliation dinner. Subject line: let's bring peace to our home. Private room, country club, formal attire, 7 p.m. I stared at it for 5 minutes. It felt like a joke. Rachel looked over and said, "Let's go." I blinked. Why? She smiled. You want proof? Let them give it to you themselves. I wore black, simple makeup, hair tied back. Rachel sat a few tables away, pretending to be a random guest. Her phone was recording. I had a recorder hidden in my bag. The room was just what I expected: white tablecloths, candles, and Anita smiling like she owned the world. Brian was already there, wearing a suit I knew he couldn't afford. He didn't look at me with love, just that same blank stare. Anita stood up when I walked in, kissed me on the cheek, and told the waiter to pour champagne. Then she said, "I just want to apologize for any misunderstandings. I know it's hard for a woman like you, independent, raised without a mother, to join a traditional family." I almost laughed. Halfway through the meal, while I pushed dry chicken around my plate, Anita said, "This has been hard, but there's something we'd like to share with you." I raised an eyebrow. Brian reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. He slid it across the table. I opened it. It was a post-nuptial agreement. Not a draft, a real, notarized contract. Already signed by Brian. It had rules about marital duties, money owed to the family, and said Anita would always be the one in charge of the home. The date? 2 days after our wedding. He signed it without telling me. I folded the paper and slipped it into my bag. Rachel gave me a small nod. She got the whole thing on audio. I stood up. No yelling, no scene. I looked at Brian and said, "You didn't marry me, you hired me." Then I looked at Anita. "And you didn't want a daughter-in-law, you wanted a mirror." Then I walked out. That night, Brian left me a voicemail. I still have it saved. His voice was shaking, not crying, just shaky. "You could have tried. You promised you'd be different from the last one, but you're the same, cold, selfish. You turned her against me, my own mother. And I finally got it." He really believed it. He thought I betrayed him, not because I left, but because I didn't become Anita too. 2 weeks later, I thought everything was calming down. Rachel was wrapping up the annulment. Brian stopped emailing. Anita had gone quiet. I was starting to feel normal again. I could eat, sleep, smile for real. But they weren't done yet. One morning, my manager called me into her office. She said someone sent an anonymous tip saying I was using company time and tools to harass a grieving mother and run a personal revenge campaign. She showed me the email. It was full of dramatic claims, written like a legal report. It accused me of turning a family issue into fake abuse, and even hinted at fraud. But I recognized the tone. I knew who wrote it. It was Anita who sent that email. Rachel told me to stay calm. She said, "You've done everything right. You have proof, but if you want real closure, you need to say it to his face, just once." So I did something I didn't think I'd do. I asked for one last meeting, with both Brian and Anita. We met at a law office downtown. There were 2 lawyers, a mediator, and Rachel was with me. No one could yell, no one could lie, it was neutral ground. We sat across from each other at a shiny oak table. Anita looked like she was going to church. Brian looked nervous. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. I brought a folder with me. The mediator welcomed us, explained the rules, and started the meeting. I didn't speak at first. Then I pulled out 3 papers from my folder. The email Anita sent to my job. The bank transfers Brian made. The post-nuptial agreement I never signed. I placed them in front of Brian. He looked down, said nothing. Then I looked at Anita and asked, "Why did you do it? Why come after my job?" She smiled and said, "I had to. You were poisoning my son's mind. He's weak. He's not himself anymore." That's when Brian finally spoke. "Stop." She blinked. "Excuse me? Stop talking like that." The whole room went quiet. Brian stood up and looked at her. "You've ruined everything. I loved her. I still love her, but I chose you, over and over, and I don't even know why anymore." For the first time, Anita didn't look smug or angry, she looked scared. He kept going. "You told me she'd hurt me, that she'd leave, like Sarah did, but maybe they didn't leave me, maybe they left you, and I just let it happen. You raised me to depend on you, you said you'd cut me off if I didn't obey, and now, I don't even know how to be a man without your permission." Then he turned to me. "I'm sorry I was weak, you didn't deserve what I did." And I believed him. But it didn't change anything. Anita stood up, looked around like we were beneath her. Then she hissed, "You'll regret this," and walked out. No yelling, no dramatic ending, just the sound of her heels echoing down the hall. Brian sat down again and covered his face with his hands. No one said anything. Then the mediator asked quietly, "Would you like to continue, or take a break?" I said, "We're done here." And I walked out. Brian emailed me one more time after that. This time, it was a real apology. He said he started therapy. He said he cut his mom off. He said he moved out of her house and into a small apartment in a rough part of town. He said he was working nights, trying to figure out who he really was without her voice in his head. He didn't ask for another chance, he didn't beg. He just said, "You were the first person who told me I could be more than what she made me. I'm sorry I didn't listen when it mattered." I didn't reply. A few weeks later, Rachel and I were sitting on her balcony, drinking cheap wine and listening to the city at night. She said, "You weren't just his wife, you were his way out." I nodded. "But I wasn't a rescue mission, I'm a person." She clinked her glass against mine. "Exactly. Here's what I learned. Love isn't always enough, especially when the person you love is still stuck in someone else's shadow. You don't always win by fighting or yelling. Sometimes, you win by walking away, before you lose yourself completely." I left that house. I left that name. I left behind all the weight of someone else's expectations. And in the quiet that followed, I finally heard my own voice again. Calm, clear, free.
I knew something was wrong the moment the church doors creaked open. Not because my fiancé was walking through them, but because he wasn't. The string quartet faltered. 300 guests shifted in their seats. My father's hand tightened around mine, and I felt the first crack in my perfect day. "He's just running late," I whispered, more to myself than to Dad. But the knot in my stomach told a different story. I stood at the altar in my custom gown, the one Drew had said would make him cry when he saw me in it. 6 bridesmaids lined up beside me, my best friend Lacey at the front, her eyes suddenly avoiding mine. The minister cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should—" My phone buzzed in my maid of honor's clutch. Lacey pulled it out, her face draining of color as she read the screen. "Francesca," she said, her voice barely audible. "It's from Drew." The church fell silent. 300 people holding their breath, watching my world collapse in real time. I grabbed the phone, my fingers trembling so badly I could barely read the message. "I can't do this. I'm sorry. Please don't hate me." 5 seconds passed. 10. The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. "Francesca?" My father's voice seemed to come from miles away. "Sweetheart, what is it?" I looked up at the concerned faces surrounding me. My mother in the front row, hand pressed to her mouth. My college roommates who had flown in from across the country. Drew's parents, confusion etched across their features. "He's not coming." The words felt like glass in my throat. "Drew isn't coming." The gasp that rippled through the church was like a physical blow. I stumbled backward, my veil catching on a candelabra. Someone steadied me. Madeline, I think, but I barely felt her touch. "There must be some mistake," Drew's mother said, rushing toward me. "Let me call him." I already tried. "Zechariah, Drew's brother and best man, appeared at the side entrance, his face ashen. His phone's going straight to voicemail. That's when I noticed Zechariah wasn't looking at me. He was looking at Lacey, who had backed away from me, clutching her bouquet like a shield. "Where is he?" I demanded, my voice rising. "Lacey, do you know something?" Her eyes darted to Zechariah, then back to me. I don't... Francesca, my mother said, suddenly at my side. "Let's go to the bride's room. We need to figure this out privately." But it was too late for privacy. The murmurs had started, phones were coming out, and I could already imagine the social media posts. Francesca Chen left at the altar. So sad. Sending prayers. I yanked my arm from my mother's grasp. "No, I want answers. Now." Zechariah stepped forward, his expression grim. "Fran, please, not here." "Then where?" I demanded. "Where exactly should I have this conversation? Where is the appropriate place to learn why my fiancé of 3 years decided to text me instead of showing up to our wedding?" The string quartet packed up their instruments. Guests began to stand, unsure whether to leave or stay for the unfolding drama. My father was on his phone, probably calling Drew, while my mother tried to usher me toward the exit. That's when I saw it. Lacey's hand resting protectively over her stomach. A gesture I'd seen before when my cousin was pregnant with her first child. The room tilted. "Lacey?" My voice didn't sound like my own. "Are you pregnant?" Her face crumpled. Zechariah made a strangled noise. And suddenly I knew. "How long?" I whispered. Lacey shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "Fran, please." "How long?" I screamed, my voice echoing off the vaulted ceiling. 3 months, she whispered. 3 months. While she helped me choose flowers and cake flavors. While she zipped me into my wedding dress this morning and told me how lucky Drew was. "Is it his?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. She nodded, almost imperceptibly. The bouquet slipped from my fingers, white roses scattering across the marble floor. Someone was sobbing. My mother, maybe. Or one of my bridesmaids. I couldn't tell anymore. I turned to Zechariah, who looked like he might be sick. "Did you know?" His silence was answer enough. I'd planned this day for a year. The dress, the flowers, the vows I'd written myself. The honeymoon to Bali. The life we were supposed to start together. All of it. A lie. I walked down the aisle alone, my train dragging behind me like the remnants of a dream. Guests reached for me as I passed, offering condolences, but I couldn't hear them over the roaring in my ears. Outside, the May sunshine felt obscene. I stood on the church steps, my makeup ruined, my heart in pieces, as reality crashed over me in waves. Drew wasn't coming. My best friend was pregnant with his child. Everyone knew before I did. I sank onto the steps, white satin pooling around me, and made a promise to myself. This would not be the end of my story. It would be the beginning of theirs. The next 3 days passed in a blur of unanswered calls, unopened sympathy cards, and empty wine bottles. I'd moved from my bed to the couch and back again, existing in a fog of betrayal so thick I could barely breathe through it. "You need to eat something," Madeline said, setting a plate of toast on my coffee table. She'd been checking on me daily since the wedding. That wasn't, bringing food I wouldn't eat and offering comfort I couldn't accept. "I'm not hungry." My voice was hoarse from crying. "I don't care. Eat anyway." She pushed the plate closer. "Starving yourself won't hurt them, Fran. It only hurts you." Them, Drew and Lacey, the names that had become poison in my mouth. I forced myself to take a bite of toast, nearly gagging on it. "Have you heard anything?" Madeline hesitated. "They're staying at his parents' lake house." The toast turned to ash on my tongue. Our lake house. The one where Drew had proposed, where we'd planned to spend our anniversaries, where we'd talked about building a nursery someday. "How thoughtful of his parents," I said, the bitterness scalding my throat. "Providing a love nest for their son and his pregnant mistress." "Fran, don't." I held up my hand. "Don't defend them. Not to me. Madeline sighed, gathering the empty wine bottles from my coffee table. I'm not defending them. What they did is unforgivable. But you can't stay in this apartment forever, surrounded by this. She gestured to the wedding gifts still stacked in the corner, the framed engagement photos I hadn't had the strength to take down. Watch me. My phone buzzed with an incoming text. I lunged for it, hope flaring despite everything. Maybe it was Drew, finally calling to explain, to apologize. But it was Zechariah. We need to talk. It's important. I stared at the message, rage bubbling up fresh and hot. Zechariah, who'd known about the affair and said nothing, who'd stood beside his brother at our rehearsal dinner, toasting our future while knowing it was built on lies. Who is it? Madeline asked. No one important. I tossed the phone aside, but 10 minutes after Madeline left, it buzzed again. Please, Fran, there's more you need to know. More? What more could there possibly be? My fiancé had left me at the altar for my best friend, who was carrying his child. The humiliation was complete. The betrayal, absolute. Yet curiosity gnawed at me. What else was Zechariah hiding? Fine. When? Now. I'm outside your building. I froze, then rushed to the window. Sure enough, Zechariah's black SUV was parked across the street, his familiar figure leaning against it. I should have ignored him. Should have closed the curtains and gone back to my cocoon of misery. Instead, I found myself buzzing him up, not bothering to change out of my sweatpants or wash my face. When I opened the door, Zechariah looked almost as bad as I felt. Dark circles under his eyes, stubble on his usually clean-shaven face. You look terrible, I said flatly. So do you. He stepped inside, his eyes taking in the chaos of my apartment. Jesus, Fran. Skip the judgment. What do you want? He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so like Drew's that my chest ached. I came to apologize, and to tell you something I should have told you months ago. That your brother is a cheating bastard? Little late for that revelation. It's about the baby. Zechariah's voice dropped. It's not Drew's. The world tilted sideways. What? The baby, it's not Drew's. He met my eyes, his own filled with a mixture of guilt and something else. Something that made my stomach drop. It's mine. I staggered backward, gripping the edge of my kitchen counter. You and Lacey? He nodded, misery etched into every line of his face. It happened once, after your engagement party. We were drunk, stupid. I never meant for it to happen again, but it did. The pieces were falling into place with sickening clarity. How many times? Fran, how many times did you sleep with my best friend behind my back? Zechariah looked away. It became regular, about 6 months ago. 6 months. Half a year of betrayal right under my nose. And Drew found out. It wasn't a question. 3 weeks ago, Lacey told him she was pregnant and that it was mine. He was destroyed. So destroyed that instead of telling me, he waited until our wedding day to run away with her? My laugh was hollow. Make it make sense, Zechariah. He didn't run away with her. Zechariah's voice hardened. He ran away from all of us, Lacey included. Then why are they at the lake house together? They're not. Drew's gone, Fran. No one knows where. Lacey's at the lake house alone because her parents kicked her out when they found out about the baby. He stepped closer. Drew abandoned both of you. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Drew hadn't chosen Lacey over me. He'd chosen neither of us. Why are you telling me this? I whispered. Because you deserve the truth. And because... Zechariah hesitated. Because I need your help. My help? I laughed bitterly. With what? Finding Drew. He's disappeared completely. No phone, no credit card activity. His passport is still at your apartment, so he hasn't left the country. But beyond that... Zechariah's expression darkened. I'm worried about what he might do. I stared at him, the implication sinking in. Drew, alone and desperate. Drew, who'd once told me that without me he had nothing to live for. Why should I care? I asked, but the tremor in my voice betrayed me, because despite everything, I know you do. Zechariah held my gaze. And because when we find him, you deserve to be the one to make him face what he's done. I spent the night staring at my ceiling, Zechariah's words echoing in my head. Drew was missing. Not with Lacey. Just gone. Part of me, a vindictive, wounded part, wanted to say it wasn't my problem anymore. Let him disappear. Let him suffer. But another part, the part that had loved him for 3 years, couldn't stop imagining the worst. By morning, I'd made my decision. I'll help you look for him, I told Zechariah over the phone. But not for his sake. For mine. I need answers. Thank you, he said, relief evident in his voice. Can you meet me at his office? I'm going to talk to his assistant. 2 hours later, I stood in the lobby of the architectural firm where Drew worked, wearing actual clothes for the first time in days. My reflection in the glass doors showed a woman I barely recognized. Hollow-eyed, pale, determined. Zechariah was waiting by the reception desk. When he saw me, something like admiration flickered across his face. You came. I said I would. I brushed past him toward the elevators. Let's get this over with. Drew's assistant, Vanessa, looked up in surprise when we entered. Her eyes widened at the sight of me. Francesca, I didn't expect to see you here. Clearly. I forced a smile. I'm looking for Drew. She glanced nervously between Zechariah and me. He called in sick on Monday. I haven't heard from him since. Has he done this before? Zechariah asked. No, never. Drew was always very reliable. She lowered her voice. Everyone here knows what happened. With the wedding, I mean. People are talking. Of course they were. My humiliation was probably the highlight of office gossip. We're not here about the wedding, I said sharply. We're concerned about Drew's whereabouts. Has anyone been in touch with him? Vanessa hesitated. His project partner, Ethan, mentioned something about getting a weird email from Drew on Tuesday. Something about transferring all his clients. My stomach dropped. Like he's not coming back? I don't know. Ethan might know more. Ethan, as it turned out, knew considerably more. Drew emailed me at 3 a.m. on Tuesday. He told us in the conference room, sliding his phone across the table. Read it yourself. The email was brief and disturbing. Ethan, I'm taking an indefinite leave. I've attached files for all my current projects. Please tell the partners I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Everything in my life has been a mistake. I need to start over. Have you responded? Zechariah asked. Multiple times. No answer. Ethan looked uncomfortable. Look, I don't want to get involved in personal drama, but Drew was acting strange for weeks before, before he left me at the altar, I supplied coldly. Ethan winced. Yeah, that. Strange how? Zechariah pressed. Distracted. Taking personal calls in the stairwell. Once I found him just sitting in his car in the parking garage, staring at nothing. Ethan hesitated. And there was a woman who came to see him a few times. Not you, he added, glancing at me. Lacey, I said, the name bitter on my tongue. No, older. Maybe in her 50s? Short gray hair, expensive clothes. They argued once right outside. Drew looked scared. Zechariah and I exchanged glances. This didn't fit anything we knew. Did you catch her name? I asked. No, sorry. But she drove a silver Mercedes SUV. I remember because she nearly hit me in the parking lot once. Outside, Zechariah and I stood in stunned silence. That doesn't sound like anyone I know, he finally said. Me neither. I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly cold despite the warm day. What the hell is going on, Zechariah? I don't know, but we need to check his apartment next. Drew's place was exactly as I remembered it. Minimalist, expensive, impeccably clean. except for the bedroom, which looked like it had been ransacked. Someone was looking for something, Zechariah said, surveying the upended drawers and scattered clothes, or Drew was packing in a hurry. I moved through the space that had once been so familiar, now feeling like an intruder. How many nights had I spent here, planning our future, believing I knew the man who slept beside me? In the bathroom, Drew's toiletries were gone. His passport, which Zechariah had claimed was at our apartment, was missing from the drawer where he always kept it. "He lied to you," I said when I returned to the bedroom. Drew took his passport. Zechariah's face darkened. "That doesn't make sense. I checked your apartment myself before coming to see you." "Well, it's not here either." A horrible thought struck me. Unless what? Unless Drew has more than one passport. Zechariah stared at me. Why would he have multiple passports? I don't know, but nothing about this feels right. I sank onto the edge of the bed, suddenly exhausted. I thought I knew him, Zechariah. I was going to marry him. How could I not know who he really was? Zechariah sat beside me, careful to maintain distance. I'm his brother, and I'm asking myself the same question. We sat in silence, the weight of Drew's deception hanging between us. I need to see Lacey, I said finally. Zechariah tensed. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't care what you think. She was my best friend for 15 years. She knows things about Drew that you don't, that I don't. I stood up, newfound resolve hardening inside me. And she owes me the truth. Fran, she's pregnant and alone. Because of choices she made. I cut him off. Choices that destroyed my life. So either drive me to the lake house or I'll find my own way there. Zechariah looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. Okay. But don't expect this to bring you peace. Peace? I laughed bitterly. I'm not looking for peace, Zechariah. I'm looking for answers. And after that, I glanced around the bedroom one last time. After that, I'm looking for justice. The lake house stood exactly as I remembered it. Weathered cedar siding, wraparound porch, floor-to-ceiling windows reflecting the water. Drew and I had spent last Christmas here, building a fire in the massive stone fireplace, making love on the bearskin rug his father had hunted himself. Now Lacey was inside, pregnant, with Zechariah's child. You don't have to do this today, Zechariah said as he parked the car. We could come back tomorrow. Stop trying to protect her. I unbuckled my seatbelt. She didn't protect me. The walk to the front door felt endless. What would I say to the woman who had been my maid of honor, my confidant since childhood? The woman who had betrayed me in the most fundamental way possible? I didn't have to decide. The door swung open before I could knock, and there she was. Lacey looked terrible. Her usually perfect hair hung limp around her face. Her eyes were swollen from crying, and her complexion had the sallow cast of early pregnancy. Fran. Her voice broke on my name. You came. Not for you. I pushed past her into the house. I'm looking for Drew. He's not here. She closed the door, not looking at Zechariah. I haven't seen him since the wedding day. The living room was a mess. Blankets piled on the couch, empty mugs on every surface, a half-eaten bowl of cereal on the coffee table. So unlike the fastidious Lacey I knew. You're living like this? I couldn't keep the judgment from my voice. I'm surviving. She sank onto the couch, one hand instinctively moving to her stomach. Barely. Don't expect sympathy from me. I don't. Her eyes filled with tears. I don't deserve it. I remained standing, unwilling to sit in this house that should have been part of my future, not her present. Where is he, Lacey? I told you I don't know. She looked up at Zechariah, who hovered awkwardly by the door. Neither of us do. But you were sleeping with him too, weren't you? The question burned coming out. While you were sleeping with his brother? Lacey flinched. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Explain it to me. Help me understand how my best friend could do this. She took a shuddering breath. Drew and I, it only happened once. After he found out about me and Zechariah, about the baby. I froze, looking between them. What? It was revenge, Zechariah said quietly. Drew slept with Lacey to get back at me. The room seemed to tilt. And you didn't think this was relevant information? I was trying to protect you from more pain. Stop. Protecting. Me. I enunciated each word. I'm not fragile, I'm furious. And I deserve the whole truth. Lacey wiped her eyes. Drew was devastated when he found out about the baby. He came here, drunk, saying he'd lost everything. You, his brother's loyalty. He said he wanted to hurt Zechariah like Zechariah had hurt him. She looked down. I was vulnerable. Guilty. I let it happen. And then he left you too. I couldn't keep the bitter satisfaction from my voice. He was disgusted with himself. With all of us. Lacey reached for a tissue. The next morning, he said he couldn't go through with the wedding, but he couldn't face telling you the truth either. He said he needed time to figure out what to do. So he left me standing at the altar instead. The familiar rage bubbled up. How considerate. I begged him to talk to you. Lacey's voice cracked. I swear, Fran. I told him you deserved better than a text message. You're right. I deserved better than all of this. I gestured around the room at the three of us locked in this grotesque triangle. But that's not why I'm here. Drew is missing and we need to find him. Lacey's brow furrowed. Missing? What do you mean? Zechariah explained about the office visit, the ransacked apartment, the missing passport. That doesn't sound like Drew, Lacey said when he finished. None of this sounds like the Drew we thought we knew, I replied. But here we are. I moved to the windows overlooking the lake, needing space from both of them. The water was choppy today, white caps breaking against the shore. Like my emotions, turbulent, unpredictable, dangerous. Did Drew ever mention a woman? Older, gray hair, drives a Mercedes SUV? I asked without turning around. The silence behind me stretched too long. I turned to find Lacey and Zechariah exchanging glances. What? What aren't you telling me? Lacey bit her lip. It might be his mother. His mother is blonde and drives a Lexus, I said. I had dinner with his parents every month for 3 years. Not Elizabeth, Zechariah said quietly. His birth mother. The floor seemed to drop from under me. What are you talking about? Drew was adopted, Zechariah explained. Elizabeth and my dad adopted him when he was 4. I'm their biological child. That's impossible. He would have told me. He doesn't talk about it. Ever. Zechariah ran a hand through his hair. His birth mother reached out about a year ago, wanting to reconnect. Drew refused. A year ago? My voice rose. We were already engaged, planning our wedding. And he never mentioned this? Drew compartmentalizes, Lacey said softly. You know that. I don't know anything anymore. I pressed my fingers to my temples, trying to process this new information. So this woman, his birth mother, you think she's involved in his disappearance? I don't know, Zechariah admitted. But it's the only lead we have. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. Do you know her name? Where she lives? No. Drew wouldn't discuss it. Zechariah hesitated. But there might be something in his personal files. He kept a lockbox in his closet. We already searched his apartment, I reminded him. Not that closet. Lacey stood up. The one here, upstairs. He keeps important documents in the lake house because it has a better security system. I stared at her, the implication clear. She'd been here enough to know these details. Details I, his fiancé, didn't know. Show me, I said, my voice hard. As Lacey led us upstairs, I made a decision. I would find Drew. Not to reconcile. Not even for closure. But to make him face what he'd done to all of us. And then I would destroy him. The lockbox was hidden behind a false panel in the master bedroom closet. I watched Lacey slide it open with practiced ease, my stomach churning at this further evidence of her familiarity with spaces that should have been mine. "Drew showed me once," she said, catching my expression. "When we were all here for that weekend last summer." I remembered that weekend. I'd gotten food poisoning and spent most of it curled up in bed while Drew and our friends enjoyed the lake. Apparently, he'd found time to give Lacey a private tour. The metal box inside was sleek and expensive, like everything Drew owned. Lacey stepped back, giving me space. "It needs a code," Zechariah said. I knelt before it, considering. Drew used the same password for everything. Our anniversary date. I punched in 0519, the day he'd proposed. Nothing happened. "Try his birthday," Lacey suggested. "I know what to try," I snapped. I entered 0423, the day we met. The box remained locked. Frustration mounting, I tried his parents' anniversary, his brother's birthday, even the date we'd closed on our apartment. Nothing worked. "Let me," Zechariah said, gently moving me aside. He entered a 6-digit code and the lock clicked open. "How did you know that?" I demanded. "It's the date his adoption was finalized." Zechariah lifted the lid. December 8th, 1997, the day he officially became a Ellis. Inside were the expected documents: property deeds, insurance policies, his will. But beneath those lay a manila envelope labeled simply, "Margaret." My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a small collection of letters, all from the same person. Margaret Winters, with a return address in Boston. His birth mother, Zechariah confirmed, reading over my shoulder. The most recent letter was dated just 3 weeks before our wedding. "Drew, I understand your reluctance to meet. I've respected your boundaries for months. But time is running out for me, and there are things you need to know. About your father, about your inheritance, about the circumstances of your adoption. This isn't about money, it's about truth. The kind of truth that changes everything. I'll be in town next week. Please reconsider meeting me. Your mother, Margaret." Inheritance? I looked up at Zechariah. "Did you know anything about this?" He shook his head. Drew never mentioned money or inheritance from his birth family. "There's more," Lacey said, pulling out a legal document from beneath the letters. It was a preliminary DNA test result, dated 2 weeks before our wedding. The kind used to establish paternity. "Why would he need a DNA test?" I whispered. Zechariah took the paper, his expression darkening as he read. "It's not testing if he's related to Margaret. It's testing if he's related to someone named Robert Winters." "Her husband? His birth father?" "I don't know." Zechariah looked troubled. But whatever this is about, it was consuming him right before the wedding. I gathered everything back into the envelope. "We need to find Margaret Winters." The drive back to the city was tense. Lacey had insisted on coming with us, claiming she had as much right to answers as we did. I'd relented, but refused to sit next to her, taking the front passenger seat while she sat behind Zechariah. "I still don't understand why Drew kept all this from me," I said, staring out the window. "We were supposed to share everything." "Drew has always been private about his adoption," Zechariah replied. "Our parents never hid it from him, but he hated talking about it, like it was shameful somehow. But I was going to be his wife. And I was his brother," Zechariah said quietly. "He didn't tell me about Margaret either." A notification chimed on my phone, a reminder for my final dress fitting scheduled for tomorrow. The wedding was supposed to be in 3 days. Would have been. The reality of it hit me fresh. I'd been so consumed with finding Drew, with understanding his betrayal, that I hadn't fully processed that my entire future had vanished. No wedding, no marriage, no children with the man I thought I'd grow old with. Tears burned behind my eyes. I blinked them back furiously. "Fran?" Zechariah glanced over, concerned. "You okay?" "I should be on my honeymoon next week," I said, my voice barely audible. Instead, I'm hunting down my runaway fiancé with his brother and his pregnant mistress. From the back seat, Lacey made a small, wounded sound. I know this isn't what any of us planned, Zechariah began. Don't. I cut him off. Just don't. We drove in silence for several miles before my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Is this Francesca? A woman's voice, unfamiliar. Yes. Who's this? My name is Margaret Winters. I believe you're looking for me. My heart lurched. How did you get this number? Drew gave it to me months ago as an emergency contact. A pause. I know what happened at the wedding. I'm so sorry. Where is he? I demanded. I don't know exactly, but I know why he ran. Her voice lowered. And it's not what you think. Then tell me. Not over the phone. Can you meet me tonight? I hesitated, looking at Zechariah, who nodded encouragingly. Where? The Meridian Hotel downtown, room 712, 8 o'clock. She paused. Come alone, Francesca. This involves things Drew wouldn't want his family to know. The line went dead. What did she say? Lacey leaned forward anxiously. I relayed the conversation, watching Zechariah's expression harden. You're not meeting her alone, he said firmly. She specifically asked me to. I don't care. We don't know who this woman really is or what she wants. She's Drew's mother, Lacey pointed out. Biologically, maybe. But she gave him up. She's a stranger. Zechariah's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. This could be dangerous, Fran. Everything about this situation is dangerous, I replied. For my heart, at least. I stared out at the approaching city skyline. But I'm done being the last to know things about my own life. I'm meeting her. Alone. Fran, this isn't a discussion, Zechariah. I need answers, and Margaret Winters has them. I turned to face him fully. For once, I'm going to be the one in control of my own story. The Meridian Hotel loomed before me, its glass facade reflecting the sunset in shades of orange and gold. I'd checked in here once with Drew, celebrating our first anniversary with room service and champagne. Now I was meeting his birth mother, a woman he'd never even mentioned to me. Text me when you're inside, Zechariah said as I got out of his car. And every 15 minutes after that. I'm not a child. No, but you're walking into an unknown situation with a woman who might have something to do with my brother's disappearance. His eyes softened. Just be careful, Fran. I nodded, surprised by the genuine concern in his voice. When had Zechariah and I become allies in this mess? The hotel lobby was busy with evening check-ins. I bypassed the front desk and headed straight for the elevators, my heart pounding harder with each floor that passed. What would Margaret tell me? What secrets had Drew been keeping? Room 712 was at the end of a long hallway. I hesitated before knocking, suddenly aware that I was about to meet the woman who had given birth to the man I'd almost married. A woman who, for whatever reason, had given him up. The door opened before I could knock a second time. Francesca. The woman who stood there matched Ethan's description. Silver gray hair cut in an elegant bob, expensive clothes, shrewd eyes. Thank you for coming. I stepped inside, taking in the suite. It was one of the hotel's best, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. On the coffee table sat a bottle of scotch and 2 glasses. I don't drink scotch, I said. Margaret smiled thinly. Drew does. Did. I thought perhaps you shared his tastes. There's a lot about Drew I apparently don't know. Yes? She gestured to the sofa. Please sit. We have much to discuss. I remained standing. Where is he? I told you I don't know exactly. She poured herself a drink. But I know why he ran, and I know he's not coming back. How can you be so sure? Because Drew discovered something that changed everything he believed about himself. She took a sip of scotch. About his family, about his future. Stop being cryptic and tell me what's going on. Margaret studied me for a long moment. Drew isn't who he thinks he is. Who any of you think he is. What does that mean? It means his adoption wasn't legal. He wasn't an orphan, as the Ellises were told. He was taken from me. Her voice hardened. Stolen. I sank onto the sofa, stunned. That's impossible. Is it? The early 90s were the Wild West for private adoptions. My husband, Drew's father, was a powerful man with dangerous connections. When I tried to leave him, he punished me by taking our son. She set down her glass. I spent years searching, but Robert had changed Drew's name, falsified documents. By the time I found him, he was a teenager, settled with his new family. I decided not to disrupt his life. Until now. Until Robert died 6 months ago, leaving Drew a substantial inheritance. The estate lawyers tracked Drew down. She smiled grimly. Imagine my surprise when I discovered my son was living in the same city as me. My head was spinning. So you contacted him? Yes. At first, he refused to meet, but then he agreed to a DNA test, to prove I was lying, I think. When the results confirmed I was his mother, he finally agreed to see me. Her expression softened. He looks so much like his father. The DNA test we found wasn't about you, I realized. It was about Robert, Drew's birth father. Yes, Drew needed to establish paternity to claim his inheritance. She hesitated. But the test revealed something else, something that devastated him. What? Margaret refilled her glass. Robert Winters wasn't just a wealthy businessman. He was the son of Victor Winters. The name hit me like a physical blow. Everyone in the city knew Victor Winters, the developer who'd been indicted for fraud, money laundering, and connections to organized crime. He'd died in prison a decade ago. Drew's grandfather was Victor Winters? The Victor Winters? Yes, and the inheritance Drew stands to receive comes from those criminal enterprises. Margaret's eyes met mine. Money that ruined countless lives. I thought of Drew, with his strict moral code, his insistence on ethical business practices. How many times had he lectured about corrupt developers who cut corners? This would destroy him, I whispered. It did. Margaret's voice was gentle. He came to me the night before your wedding, in a state I can only describe as shattered. He said he couldn't marry you with this hanging over him, that he needed to figure out who he really was before he could be anyone's husband. So he left me at the altar instead of just talking to me? Anger flared, hot and bright. That was his solution? Drew has always run from emotional confrontation. Surely you know that about him. I did know that. It was one of the things we'd argued about during our relationship. His tendency to withdraw rather than face difficult conversations. Where would he go? I asked. If he wanted to disappear and think? Margaret shook her head. I don't know him well enough to answer that, but there's something else you should know. She reached for her purse, extracting an envelope. He left this for you. My hands trembled as I took it. Inside was a handwritten letter and a check for an astronomical amount. What is this? Half of his inheritance. He wanted you to have it. Margaret's expression was unreadable. He said you deserved compensation for what he was about to do to you. Rage swept through me, so intense I could barely breathe. Drew thought he could buy his way out of facing me? That money could make up for public humiliation? I tore the check in half, then quarters, then eighths, letting the pieces flutter to the floor. I don't want his blood money, I said, my voice shaking. I want him to look me in the eye and explain himself. I understand. Margaret stood, which is why I've arranged for you to meet him. My heart stopped. What? Drew contacted me yesterday. He's at our family's lake house in Vermont, hiding, thinking, drowning in self-pity. Contempt flashed across her face. I told him you deserved better, that a real man would face the consequences of his actions. And he agreed to see me? No. She smiled, cold and determined. But he doesn't know you're coming. I'm giving you the address. What you do with it is your choice. She handed me a slip of paper. An address in Vermont, about 3 hours north. Why are you doing this? I asked. Because I lost 20 years with my son due to a man's cowardice. Her eyes met mine. Don't lose your chance for closure because of Drew's. I stared at the address, a plan forming in my mind. Not just closure, justice. Thank you, I said, already reaching for my phone to text Zechariah. But as I turned to leave, Margaret caught my arm. One more thing, Francesca. Drew isn't alone at the lake house. What do you mean? He's with a woman. Her eyes held mine. Someone he's known for years. Someone he called his real soulmate. The floor seemed to drop from under me. Who? I don't know her name, but she has red hair. That's all he mentioned. Red hair, like Lacey's. But Lacey was with Zechariah, which meant there was someone else. Someone who had been in Drew's life all along, waiting in the wings. Someone who might have been the real reason he couldn't marry me. The Vermont countryside blurred past my window, dark and unfamiliar. Zechariah drove in tense silence, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. In the back seat, Lacey had finally fallen asleep, one hand protectively curved over her stomach. When I'd told them about Margaret's revelation, about Drew hiding at a lake house with a red-haired woman, Lacey had gone pale. It's not me, she'd whispered. I swear, Fran. I believed her. Which meant there was someone else. Someone who had been in Drew's life all along, waiting for me to be out of the picture. We should be there in 20 minutes, Zechariah said, breaking the silence. Are you sure about this? No, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure of anything anymore. But I needed to see Drew's face when I confronted him. Needed to understand how the man I'd loved could have betrayed me so completely. I'm sure. The GPS directed us onto a narrow road winding through dense forest. Eventually, it opened to reveal a sprawling property on the edge of a moonlit lake. A single light glowed from the house's large windows. That's it, I said, my mouth dry. He's here. Zechariah parked a short distance away, killing the headlights. What's the plan? I go in alone. You two wait here. Fran, I mean it, Zechariah. This is between me and Drew. He studied my face, then nodded reluctantly. We'll be right here if you need us. I got out of the car, the night air sharp with pine and approaching winter. Gravel crunched beneath my boots as I approached the house, my heart hammering against my ribs. Through the windows, I could see a fire burning in a massive stone fireplace, a living room with expensive, minimalist furniture. Drew's aesthetic, through and through. I hesitated at the front door, suddenly uncertain. What would I say? What could anyone say in this situation? Before I could decide, the door swung open. I thought I heard a car, Drew said, then froze when he saw me. Fran? He looked terrible. Unshaven, hair disheveled, dark circles under his eyes. He wore sweatpants and a faded t-shirt, a far cry from the impeccably dressed man I'd known. Surprise, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Aren't you going to invite me in? He stepped back wordlessly, shock evident on his face. I walked past him into the house, taking in the empty whiskey bottle on the coffee table, the laptop open to what looked like flight bookings. Planning another escape? I asked. Drew closed the door, running a hand through his hair. How did you find me? Your mother told me where you were. Elizabeth? No, Margaret. His face hardened. She had no right. And you had no right to leave me standing at the altar with a text message. My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. You had no right to sleep with my best friend. You had no right to any of this, Drew. He flinched. I know. Do you? Do you have any idea what you've done? Not just to me, but to Lacey? To your brother? To everyone who cared about you? I couldn't go through with it, Fran. He sank onto the couch, looking defeated. Not after what I learned about my family, about who I really am. So you're Victor Winter's grandson. So what? That doesn't change who you are. Doesn't it? He looked up, his eyes haunted. That money is tainted, built on suffering. And it's in my blood. That's bullshit, and you know it. You chose the coward's way out because you were scared. Yes, he admitted. I was terrified of disappointing you, of not being the man you thought I was. So instead, you became someone far worse. I looked around the room. Where is she? Confusion crossed his face. Who? Don't play dumb. Margaret told me you weren't alone. The redhead. Your real soulmate. Understanding dawned in his eyes, followed by something like pity. Fran, there's no one else here. Stop lying to me. I'm not lying. Margaret must have... A noise from upstairs interrupted him. Soft footsteps, then a woman's voice. Drew? Who are you talking to? I whirled toward the staircase as a woman descended. Tall, slender, with shoulder-length red hair, and unmistakably pregnant. Vanessa? I gasped. Drew's assistant looked equally shocked to see me. Francesca, what are you doing here? I turned back to Drew, the pieces clicking into horrible place. Your assistant? You left me for your assistant? It's not what you think, Drew began. Really? Because it looks exactly like what I think. I gestured at Vanessa's pregnant belly. How far along are you? 5 months? 6? Vanessa's hand moved protectively to her stomach. 7. 7 months, which meant she'd gotten pregnant while Drew and I were engaged, while we were planning our wedding. How long? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Drew couldn't meet my eyes. A year. A year. 12 months of lies. Of coming home to me after being with her. Of planning a future with me while creating a child with her. Why didn't you just leave me? I asked. Why go through with the engagement, the wedding planning, all of it? Because I loved you too, he said simply. I couldn't choose. So you let a DNA test make the choice for you. The pieces were finally falling into place. You used your inheritance, your family history, as an excuse to run from the mess you'd made. He didn't deny it. And Lacey? Where does she fit in? Drew looked genuinely confused. What about Lacey? Don't pretend you don't know she's pregnant with Zechariah's baby, that you slept with her to get back at him. Vanessa made a small, distressed sound. Drew stood, his expression hardening. I never slept with Lacey. I don't know what she told you, but... The front door burst open. Zechariah stood there, his face a mask of fury. Behind him, Lacey hovered uncertainly. You son of a bitch, Zechariah growled, advancing on Drew. You've been hiding here with your pregnant girlfriend while Fran's life fell apart? Drew backed up. Zech, wait. And you. Zechariah turned to me. You knew about this? Is that why you insisted on coming alone? I didn't know, I said. Margaret told me he was with someone, but not who. Margaret. Drew spat the name. She orchestrated all of this. She wanted to punish me for rejecting her, for refusing the inheritance. Stop blaming others for your choices, I said, a strange calm settling over me. You did this, Drew. All of it. I turned to Lacey, who stood frozen in the doorway. And you lied about sleeping with him. Why? Tears filled her eyes. Because I thought if you believed Drew had betrayed you too, you might forgive me someday. The truth hung in the air between us, ugly and raw. There's nothing left to forgive, I said finally. There's nothing left at all. I walked to the door, pausing beside Lacey. He's all yours, I told Zechariah. Both of them are. And I stepped out into the night, alone but finally, mercifully free. The drive back from Vermont was the longest and shortest of my life. I sat in the passenger seat of a taxi I'd called, watching unfamiliar towns blur past, feeling strangely hollow. Not sad, not angry, just empty, as if everything that had defined me had been scooped out, leaving only an echo. Dawn was breaking as we reached the city. I directed the driver to Sophia's apartment instead of mine. I couldn't face my place yet. The wedding gifts, the photos, The life I'd planned with a man who'd never really existed. Sophia answered the door in her robe, her face shifting from annoyance to concern when she saw me. "Francesca, what happened?" I stepped inside, the familiar scent of her apartment, cinnamon and old books, wrapping around me like a blanket. "I found Drew," I said simply. She led me to her kitchen, putting on coffee without asking if I wanted any. Sophia had been my mother's best friend, and after Mom died, she'd stepped into that role in my life. She knew when to push and when to wait. "He's been living in Vermont," I continued, "with his pregnant assistant." Sophia's hand stilled on the coffee pot. Jesus. And Lacey lied about sleeping with him. She's pregnant with Zechariah's baby, but she wanted me to think Drew had betrayed me too. I laughed, the sound brittle, as if abandoning me at the altar wasn't betrayal enough. Sophia set a mug of coffee in front of me, adding a splash of bourbon. "Drink this, then sleep. We'll figure out the rest later." But as I reached for the mug, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "It's Margaret. We need to talk. It's about the inheritance." I stared at the message, something cold settling in my stomach. "I need to go. Francesca, you're exhausted. I'll be back. I promise." I showed her the text. "This woman has been manipulating all of us. I need to understand why." The Meridian Hotel looked different in daylight. Less imposing, more sterile. Margaret opened her door immediately, as if she'd been waiting. "You found him," she said. Not a question. "Yes, with his pregnant assistant." I stepped inside without being invited. "You knew about her." "Of course I knew. Drew told me everything." She closed the door. "Did he tell you why he really ran?" "Because he's a coward who couldn't choose between two women? Because he used his family history as an excuse to escape the mess he'd made?" Margaret smiled thinly. "Close, but not quite." She walked to the desk, retrieving a folder. "Drew ran because he discovered something worse than being Victor Winter's grandson." She handed me the folder. "He discovered who his grandmother was." I opened it, finding a DNA report more detailed than the one we'd found at the lake house. And a photograph, old, yellowed, of a young woman with my eyes. My exact eyes. "I don't understand. Your maternal grandmother, Eleanor, had a child before she married your grandfather. A child she gave up for adoption." Margaret's voice was gentle. "That child was me." The room seemed to tilt. "That's impossible." "Drew ran the DNA test to establish paternity for the inheritance, but the results showed something else. A close familial match to you." She took the photo from my trembling hands. "We're related, Francesca. I'm your mother's half-sister, which makes Drew your second cousin." The implications hit me like a physical blow. "We're related?" "Distant cousins, yes. Not close enough for legal or medical concerns, but close enough that Drew couldn't handle it. Especially with Vanessa pregnant, offering him a simpler future." I sank onto the sofa, my mind racing. "Why didn't you tell me this yesterday? Would you have believed me? Or would you have thought I was lying to protect my son?" She sat beside me. "You needed to see for yourself what kind of man Drew really is." "Does my mother know? Knew?" The question caught in my throat. "No, Eleanor never told anyone about me. I only found out when I was researching Drew's adoption and discovered my own." Her eyes, so similar to mine, held genuine regret. "I never meant for you to be hurt in all this, Francesca. When I realized who you were, I tried to warn Drew, but he was already looking for an escape." I stood, needing space from this woman who was suddenly, impossibly, family. "The inheritance," I said, remembering her text. "What about it?" "Drew refused it, but half of it is rightfully yours." She reached for an envelope on the coffee table. "As Eleanor's granddaughter, you have a claim." I stared at the envelope, thinking of Drew's attempt to buy my silence, of the tainted money built on suffering. "I don't want it." "It's millions, Francesca." "I don't care." I moved toward the door. Keep it, donate it, burn it, just leave me out of it. Margaret studied me, something like respect in her eyes. You're nothing like him, you know. You face things head on. I've had practice recently. My hand on the doorknob, I turned back. Don't contact me again. Whatever connection we might have through DNA, it ends here. Sophia was waiting when I returned, concern etched on her face. I told her everything, about Margaret, about our relationship, about the inheritance I'd rejected. What will you do now? She asked when I finished. It was a question I'd been asking myself since walking out of Drew's lake house. What do you do when the future you planned disappears? When the people you trusted most betray you? I'm going to Italy, I said, the decision crystallizing as I spoke. Remember that art restoration program I got accepted to before I met Drew? The one I turned down because he couldn't leave his job here? Sophia smiled. The one in Florence? You'd be brilliant at that. They might still have a spot. And if not, I'll find something else. I felt lighter suddenly, possibilities opening before me. I need to start over somewhere that doesn't have his fingerprints all over it. What about your apartment? Your job? I'll sublet the apartment. As for my job, I shrugged. I've been designing other people's dreams for years. It's time to design my own. That afternoon, I sent 3 emails. One to the Florence program asking about late admission, one to my boss requesting a leave of absence, and one to my landlord about subletting my apartment. Then I called Tony, my neighbor who'd been quietly supportive through everything, and asked if he'd help me pack up Drew's things for donation. Whatever you need, he said without hesitation. Just tell me when. As I hung up, my phone buzzed with a text from Zechariah. Can we talk? I stared at it for a long moment, thinking about all the tangled connections that had defined my life these past years. Drew, Lacey, Zechariah, Margaret. Each relationship a knot I needed to untie before I could move forward. Not yet, I replied. But someday. That night, I stood on Sophia's balcony watching the city lights, feeling the first real peace I'd known since walking down that aisle alone. The future stretched before me, uncertain, unplanned, and entirely mine. I wouldn't be defined by what Drew had done to me, or by what Lacey had done, or by unexpected family connections I never asked for. I would be defined by what I chose to do next. And for the first time in my life, I was choosing myself.
The day I buried my son, my husband checked his phone during the eulogy. That was the moment I knew our marriage was as dead as the child we'd lost. I'm Taylor, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I understood grief better than most. As a psychologist specializing in grief counseling, I'd guided countless patients through their darkest moments. But nothing prepared me for losing Tommy. Nothing prepared me for Joseph's reaction either. We should start thinking about clearing out his room, Joseph whispered as we stood by the tiny casket. The space could be useful. I stared at him, unable to process the words. Around us, mourners dabbed at their eyes with tissues, their black attire a stark contrast against the vibrant spring flowers adorning the cemetery. My sister Alina squeezed my hand, but I barely felt it. What did you just say? My voice cracked. Joseph glanced up from his phone. I'm just being practical, Taylor. We need to move forward. Move forward. Our 8-year-old son had been dead for barely a week. The image of his empty bedroom, still littered with half-finished Lego projects and dog-eared books, flashed through my mind. Taylor? Regina, my colleague, approached cautiously. Do you need a moment? I nodded, grateful for the escape. Regina led me to a quiet corner of the cemetery, away from the sympathetic gazes and whispered condolences. He's been like this since the accident, I confided, my hands shaking as I accepted the water bottle she offered. No tears, no breakdown, nothing. Just business as usual. Regina's face darkened. That's not normal grieving behavior. I know. I keep telling myself he's in shock, that everyone processes grief differently. I laughed bitterly. I should know, right? It's what I tell my patients. This is different, Regina said firmly. The Joseph I knew 6 months ago would have been devastated. Remember how he reacted when Tommy broke his arm? The memory hit me like a physical blow. Joseph had been frantic, barely leaving Tommy's side during the hospital stay. Where was that father now? Something's changed, I admitted. Or maybe I'm just seeing him clearly for the first time. A notification sound cut through our conversation. Joseph stood several feet away, engrossed in his phone. As I watched, he smiled slightly at whatever he was reading. I should get back, I said, straightening my black dress. People will want to say goodbye. The rest of the funeral passed in a blur. I accepted hugs, nodded at condolences, and somehow managed not to scream when Joseph announced he had to leave early for a business meeting. That evening, I sat alone in Tommy's room, surrounded by his belongings. His favorite stuffed dinosaur still sat on his pillow, waiting for bedtime stories that would never come. On his desk, a half-written letter to Santa listed Christmas wishes he'd never receive. My phone buzzed with a text from Joseph. Meeting running late. Don't wait up. I started to type a response, then stopped. Instead, I opened my laptop and pulled up our shared calendar. Joseph's schedule showed nothing but blank spaces for the afternoon and evening. Regina, I said when she answered my call. Remember when you said something had changed with Joseph? Yes? I need your help. Something's not right, and I'm going to find out what it is. Taylor. Regina's voice was cautious. Are you sure this is the right time? You're grieving. I'm grieving my son, I cut in. But I'm starting to wonder if I should be grieving my marriage too. Joseph's hiding something, and I need to know what it is. There was a long pause before Regina responded. Okay, what do you need? I looked at Tommy's dinosaur, remembering how Joseph used to make it dance to make our son laugh. When had those moments stopped? When had I stopped noticing they were gone? Everything, I said firmly. I need to know everything. Bank statements, phone records, email accounts, whatever you can help me access. That's not exactly legal, Regina warned. Neither is what I suspect he's doing. I picked up Tommy's dinosaur, hugging it close. My son deserved better than a father who checks his phone during his funeral, and I deserve to know why the man I married turned into a stranger. I'll help, Regina said finally. But Taylor, be prepared. Whatever we find might change everything. Everything already changed the moment Tommy died, I replied. Now I just need to understand why. After hanging up, I sat in the growing darkness of Tommy's room, clutching his dinosaur and making a silent promise. I would find out what Joseph was hiding. I would understand why he'd changed. And when I did, I would make sure he felt every ounce of pain he'd failed to show at our son's funeral. I just didn't know then how deep the betrayal went, or how much more I would lose before I found the truth. Regina's office felt like a war room, with papers spread across her desk and multiple screens displaying various documents. 2 weeks had passed since Tommy's funeral, and we'd been digging deeper into Joseph's life every day. Look at this. Regina pointed to a spreadsheet. These withdrawals happen like clockwork, the 15th of every month, $5,000, always in cash. I leaned closer, scanning the dates. For how long? 3 years at least. That's as far back as I could access. The numbers blurred before my eyes. 3 years of secret withdrawals. 3 years of lies. Where's the money going? That's the thing. Regina clicked through several windows. It's not going to any shared accounts, not to his business ventures, not to any investments I can trace. A knock at the door made us both jump. Connor, Joseph's business partner, stood in the doorway, his expression uncertain. Taylor, I thought I saw you come in here. He glanced at the screens, which Regina quickly minimized. How are you holding up? I'm managing, I said, forcing a smile. Just catching up with Regina. Connor shifted uncomfortably. Listen, I've been meaning to talk to you about Joseph. My heart rate picked up. What about him? He's been different lately, distracted, missing important meetings or showing up unprepared. Connor ran a hand through his graying hair. I assumed it was grief, but this started before Tommy. How long before? I asked, keeping my voice steady. 6 months? Maybe more. He's been taking a lot of business trips to Portland, but half the time I can't reach him when he's there. Connor shook his head. I probably shouldn't be telling you this. No, please. I touched his arm. I need to know. Well, last month he missed a crucial investor meeting. Said he was in Portland, but when I called the hotel where he usually stays, they had no record of him. After Connor left, I turned to Regina. Portland, that's only 3 hours away. Want me to look into property records there? I nodded, already pulling out my phone to text my journalist friend, Gwendolyn. I'm going to need another favor. That evening, I arrived home early, determined to search Joseph's home office before he returned. The room felt foreign now, like everything else in our life. His desk drawer was locked, but I found the key taped under his keyboard, an old habit he'd never broken. Inside, beneath a stack of papers, lay a small leather notebook. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were dates, times, and brief notes. W's soccer game, 3 p.m. C. Dinner at Giovanni's. Remember, W's allergic to peanuts. Who were W and C? My phone buzzed. A text from Gwendolyn. Found something. Coffee tomorrow? The next morning, I met her at our usual cafe. She slid a manila envelope across the table. Property records, she explained. Joseph's name isn't on any of them, but I found something interesting. A house purchased 3 years ago by a shell company, one that traces back to his business holdings. The photo showed a modest 2-story home with a well-maintained garden. A child's bicycle lay on its side in the driveway. There's more, Gwendolyn said quietly. I drove by yesterday. A woman lives there with her son. The boy looks about 10. My coffee cup clattered against its saucer. A son? I took some pictures. She hesitated before showing me her phone. Taylor, are you sure you want to see these? The first photo showed a woman with auburn hair unloading groceries. The second made my blood run cold. Joseph, helping a young boy with what looked like soccer gear. When was this taken? Yesterday afternoon. Yesterday. While I'd been searching his office, he'd been playing Happy Families in Portland. The boy, I whispered. What does he look like up close? Gwendolyn swiped to another photo. The child had Joseph's eyes, his smile. He was wearing a soccer uniform with Edwards printed on the back. His name is Wyatt, Gwendolyn said gently. Wyatt Edwards. His mother is Clara Edwards. The cafe suddenly felt too small, too hot. 3 years of withdrawals, a secret house, a whole other family. Taylor, Gwendolyn reached across the table. What are you going to do? I stared at the photo of the boy, Wyatt, who shared my husband's features and someone else's last name. While my son lay cold in the ground, this child played soccer with the father who couldn't even cry at Tommy's funeral. I'm going to destroy him, I said, my voice surprisingly calm. Not just expose him, destroy him, and I know exactly where to start. I pulled out Joseph's notebook, the one filled with dates and initials that now made perfect sense. First, I need to meet Clara Edwards. She deserves to know she's not the only one who's been betrayed. Portland in autumn looked exactly like the life Joseph had built here. Picture perfect on the surface, rot underneath. I'd been sitting in my rental car outside the local elementary school for 20 minutes, watching parents collect their children. You don't have to do this today, Regina's voice crackled through my phone speaker. We could gather more information first. No, I said, watching another wave of kids pour out the front doors. I need to see them, to make it real. That's when I saw him, Wyatt. He bounded down the steps wearing a blue backpack covered in dinosaur patches, just like Tommy used to have. The sight knocked the wind out of me. Taylor, are you there? He's here, I whispered. God, Regina, he looks just like Joseph. A woman approached Wyatt, Clara. She was beautiful in an effortless way, wearing a casual sweater and jeans. She hugged her son, ruffled his hair, laughed at something he said. Everything about her screamed, normal mom, just like I used to be. I was so focused on them, I didn't notice the car pulling up beside mine until someone tapped on my window. My heart stopped. It was Wyatt. Hey lady, are you okay? His concerned face peered in at me. You've been crying. I quickly wiped my cheeks, unaware tears had been falling. Clara approached behind him, maternal concern shifting to wariness as she assessed the stranger in the car. I'm fine, I managed, rolling down the window. Just having a rough day. Mom, she looks sad like Mrs. Peterson did when her dog died, Wyatt said to Clara. Clara's expression softened. I'm so sorry. Would you like us to call someone for you? The irony was almost laughable. Should I ask them to call my husband, their husband? No, thank you. I just lost my son recently, and seeing all these children... Oh my God. Clara's hand flew to her mouth. I'm so sorry. I can't imagine. Your son likes dinosaurs? I nodded toward Wyatt's backpack, desperate to change the subject. His face lit up. Yeah, Dad just got me this awesome T-Rex model kit. Do you want to see a picture? Dad, Joseph. The same man who couldn't be bothered to help Tommy with his dinosaur models those last few months. Wyatt, honey, we should let her have some space, Clara said gently. She handed me a tissue from her purse. I'm Clara, by the way. If you need anything... Taylor, I replied, watching her face carefully for any recognition. There was none. Thank you, both of you. You've been very kind. As they walked away, Wyatt turned back to wave. I waved back, my hand shaking. My phone buzzed. Regina again. Did you see them? I didn't just see them, I said, starting the car. I talked to them. Clara has no idea who I am. None at all. Taylor? I'm following them, I said, pulling out as Clara's car turned the corner. I need to see where they go. They led me to a small cafe, the kind of place that probably knew their regular orders by heart. Through the window, I watched Wyatt do homework while Clara graded papers. She must be a teacher. They looked so normal, so happy. My phone buzzed with a text from Joseph. Working late again, don't wait up. I checked the time, 3:45 p.m. Right on schedule, a familiar car pulled into the cafe parking lot. Joseph stepped out, straightening his tie before walking in. Through the window, I watched Wyatt jump up to hug him. Joseph lifted him off the ground, spinning him around like he used to do with Tommy. Clara stood to kiss him hello, and they looked like any other happy family enjoying their afternoon routine. My hands gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. 3 years. For 3 years, he'd been living this double life. While I worked late at my practice, while I took Tommy to his appointments alone, while I wondered why my husband seemed so distant. He was here, playing dad to another woman's son. My phone buzzed again. Gwendolyn this time. Got the financial records you asked for. It's worse than we thought. Want to meet? Yes, I replied, watching Joseph ruffle Wyatt's hair. But first, I need you to do something else. Find out everything you can about Clara. Where she teaches, her friends, her routine, everything. What are you planning? I started the car as Joseph settled into the cafe chair, pulling out what looked like Wyatt's homework. He's given them the perfect life while destroying mine. So I'm going to do the same to him. But first what? First, I'm going to tell Clara exactly who her perfect husband really is, and then we're going to make him pay. Both of us. As I drove away, I caught one last glimpse of them through the window, the picture-perfect family that existed because of my husband's perfect lies. By this time next week, that picture would be shattered, just like mine had been. The envelope felt heavy in my hands as I stood on Clara's front porch. Joseph was away at a business conference, actually at our home in Seattle, and I knew this was my chance. I rang the doorbell before I could lose my nerve. Clara opened the door, recognition flickering across her face. Taylor, from the school? Can we talk? I held up the envelope. It's about Joseph. Her smile faltered. Is everything okay? No, I said quietly. Nothing about this is okay. She led me into a living room that could have been pulled from a home decoration magazine. Family photos covered the walls, Joseph and Wyatt at the beach, Clara and Joseph's wedding photo, Wyatt's school pictures. A parallel life documented in perfect detail. Would you like some tea? Clara offered. I'd rather just show you these. I pulled out the photos, the bank statements, the marriage certificate, mine, not hers, laid them on her coffee table like cards in a terrible game. Clara's hands trembled as she picked up my wedding photo. I don't understand. Joseph is my husband, I said. Has been for 12 years. We had a son named Tommy. He died 3 weeks ago. The color drained from Clara's face. No, this is some kind of mistake. The mistake was his, I said, pointing to the bank statements. These withdrawals? $5,000 every month for 3 years. That's how he's been maintaining this life with you. Mom? Wyatt's voice came from the stairs. Who's here? Clara jumped up. Honey, go back upstairs, please. But Wyatt was already in the doorway, his eyes widening when he saw me. Hey, you're the sad lady from school. Wyatt, upstairs, now. Clara's voice shook with authority she didn't feel. After Wyatt reluctantly retreated, Clara collapsed onto the couch, staring at the evidence of her shattered life. 3 weeks ago, Joseph said he had to go to New York for business. He was at our son's funeral, I said, checking his phone during the eulogy. Clara pressed her hands to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. 10 years, she whispered. We've been married 10 years. Wyatt, oh God, Wyatt. I'm not here to hurt you or Wyatt, I said, my professional training kicking in despite everything. I'm here because you deserve to know the truth, and because I think we can help each other. Help each other? Clara laughed bitterly. How? By sharing custody of our mutual husband? By destroying him, I said simply. Professionally, financially, socially. I have a plan, but I need your help. Clara wiped her eyes, looking at the photos again. Your son. What happened? Leukemia, I said, my throat tightening. 8 months of treatment. Joseph was barely there. Now I know why. Wyatt's soccer games, Clara whispered. Every Saturday morning. He never missed one. But your son was having chemotherapy on Saturdays, I finished, while Joseph was here, playing devoted dad to Wyatt. Clara stood abruptly, walking to a desk in the corner. She pulled out a folder and returned, dropping it on top of my documents. Bank accounts, property deeds, business investments, all in my name. Joseph said it was for tax purposes. It was to hide money from me, I said, scanning the papers, and probably others. There's more, Clara said. Last week he asked me to sign some papers, transfer papers for Wyatt's college fund, nearly $500,000. Said he wanted to move it to a better investment account. My phone buzzed. A text from Connor. You were right. Found irregularities in company accounts. Big ones. Call me. I showed Clara the message. Joseph's not just been lying to us. He's been stealing from his company, too. What's your plan? Clara asked, her voice stronger now. First, we document everything. Then, when we have all the evidence, we go public, all at once. Media, police, SEC, he won't know what hit him. And Wyatt? Clara's eyes filled with tears again. How do I tell my son his father is a fraud? We'll figure it out together, I said, surprising myself with how much I meant it. Joseph doesn't get to destroy any more lives. Clara nodded slowly, then stood and walked to the stairs. Wyatt, can you come down, please? Clara, you don't have to. Yes, I do, she said firmly. He deserves to know he has someone else in his corner, someone who understands exactly what Joseph has done to him. Wyatt appeared, clutching his dinosaur model kit, the one Joseph had given him. The sight made my heart ache. Honey, Clara said gently, this is Taylor. She's going to be helping us with some changes that are coming, and I think she might know a thing or two about dinosaurs too. Wyatt's face lit up, and in that moment I realized something unexpected. In trying to destroy Joseph's perfect lie of a life, I might have found something real to hold on to instead. We've got him, Gwendolyn announced, spreading documents across my dining room table. Clara sat beside me, while Regina and Connor occupied the other chairs. 2 weeks had passed since I'd revealed the truth to Clara, and we'd been building our case methodically. The money transfers were just the beginning, Connor said, pointing to a complex web of transactions. He's been embezzling company funds through fake consultancy firms for years, at least $4 million. Clara's hand shook as she reached for her coffee. And the college fund he wanted me to transfer would have disappeared into one of his offshore accounts, Regina confirmed, along with everything else he's been siphoning away. That's not all, Gwendolyn added, pulling out her laptop. I found 2 other properties, one in Vancouver, one in San Diego, both purchased through shell companies. My stomach lurched. More families? No, Gwendolyn shook her head. Investment properties. He's been preparing his escape route. The doorbell rang, making us all jump. I checked the security camera feed on my phone. It was Wyatt. Mom, he called through the door. I forgot my house key again. Clara moved to get up, but I stopped her. I'll get it. You keep going through the documents. When I opened the door, Wyatt bounded in, then froze at the sight of all the adults in the dining room. Oh, is this about Dad? The room fell silent. Clara and I had told him a simplified version of the truth, that his dad had done some bad things and there would be changes coming. He'd taken it better than expected, though I suspected he understood more than he let on. Yeah, buddy, I said softly. It is. Wyatt pulled something from his backpack, a USB drive. Then maybe you should see this. What is it? Clara asked as Wyatt handed the drive to Gwendolyn. Dad's always leaving his laptop at our house, Wyatt explained. Last time he forgot to log out of his email. I copied some stuff. Gwendolyn plugged in the drive, and we all crowded around her laptop. Emails filled the screen, hundreds of them, detailing money transfers, fake business deals, and conversations with offshore bankers. "Wyatt," Clara whispered, "how did you know to do this?" He shrugged, but I caught the hurt in his eyes. "Dad stopped coming to my soccer games 2 months ago. Said he was busy with work. But I saw him texting about beach houses instead. I pulled out a chair for him. You're pretty smart, you know that." "Tommy was smart too, wasn't he?" Wyatt asked quietly. "Dad had a picture of him on his phone once. He said it was his friend's kid, but it wasn't, was it?" The room grew very still. I swallowed hard. "No, it wasn't." Wyatt nodded, then pulled out another surprise, a small notebook. "I found this in Dad's car last week. It's got lots of numbers and names in it." Connor practically lunged for the notebook. "This is his personal ledger. We've been looking for this for weeks." "Wyatt," Clara said firmly, "what you did was very brave, but I need you to promise me something. No more investigating on your own, okay? Let us handle this." "Okay," he agreed, then turned to me. "Can I show you my new dinosaur book while they do boring grown-up stuff?" I caught Clara's eye, received her nod of approval. I'd love that. As Wyatt and I settled on the couch with his book, I heard the others continuing their planning. "We need to move fast," Gwendolyn was saying. "Once we go public, he'll try to run." "The SEC is ready," Connor added. "They've been building their case quietly. We just needed proof of intent." "Which Wyatt just gave us," Regina finished. Clara joined us on the couch, putting an arm around her son. "You okay, honey?" Wyatt nodded, then asked the question I could tell had been bothering him. "Is Dad going to jail?" "Probably," Clara answered honestly. "He did some very bad things." "I know," Wyatt said, surprising us both. "He hurt Tommy by not being there, and he hurt you and Taylor too." I blinked back tears as Wyatt turned the page of his dinosaur book, pointing to a stegosaurus. "Tommy liked dinosaurs too?" "He loved them," I managed. "He had a whole collection." "Maybe," Wyatt hesitated. "Maybe I could see them sometime, to remember him by?" Before I could respond, Gwendolyn called out, "It's time. Everything's ready. We just need to make the calls." Clara squeezed Wyatt's shoulder. "Why don't you and Taylor finish the book upstairs? The grown-ups need to make some important phone calls." As we headed upstairs, I heard the first call being made, Gwendolyn to her editor. By tomorrow, Joseph's carefully constructed world would crumble completely. "Taylor?" Wyatt asked as we settled into the guest room. "After Dad goes away, will you still visit us?" I pulled him close, realizing that in seeking revenge, I'd found something I never expected, a chance to be part of a family again. "Yes," I promised, "as long as you and your mom want me around." The morning the story broke, I watched Joseph's world implode from my office. Every major news outlet picked up Gwendolyn's exposé. Tech executives' double life, fraud, 2 families, and millions in stolen funds. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Regina burst in without knocking, her tablet displaying live coverage. "They're arresting him right now. It's on every channel." I switched on the TV mounted in my office. There was Joseph, being led out of his company's building in handcuffs. His perfectly pressed suit was wrinkled, his carefully styled hair disheveled. "Have you heard from Clara?" Regina asked. "She's keeping Wyatt home from school today. They're staying at her sister's place until this dies down." My office phone rang. Alina. "Sis, are you watching this? Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I said, watching Joseph duck his head from the cameras. "Better than fine, actually." "Ms. Taylor?" My receptionist's voice came through the intercom. "There are reporters in the lobby asking for you." "Don't let them up," Regina instructed, then turned to me. "You should go home. This is going to get crazy." She was right. By the time I made it to my car, reporters were swarming the parking lot. Their questions followed me as I drove away. "Did you know about his other family? What happened to the stolen money? How long have you been planning this exposé?" I drove straight to Clara's sister's house, where Clara was pacing the living room, phone in hand. "The press found my classroom. The principal had to cancel my classes." "How's Wyatt?" "Upstairs, playing video games, trying to pretend this isn't happening." Clara ran her hands through her hair. "Joseph's lawyer called. He wants to talk." "Don't," I warned. "Not without your own lawyer present." "Taylor," Wyatt's voice came from the stairs. "You're on TV." We rushed to the living room where a news anchor was showing my photo alongside Joseph's arrest footage. Sources say Joseph's first wife, Taylor, a prominent grief counselor, worked with his second wife, Clara, to expose his fraudulent activities. Clara muted the TV as her phone rang again. Joseph's number. Should I answer it? Put it on speaker, I said. Joseph's voice filled the room, desperate and angry. Clara, listen to me. This is all a misunderstanding. Taylor's twisted everything. Like you twisted the truth about having another family? Clara's voice was ice. About stealing millions? About missing your son's cancer treatments to attend my son's soccer games? I can explain everything. No, I cut in. You can't explain why you checked your phone during Tommy's eulogy. You can't explain why you wanted to clear out his room a week after he died. Taylor? His voice changed, becoming harder. You did this. You turned Clara against me. You ruined everything. You ruined everything, Wyatt said suddenly, moving closer to the phone. You lied to everyone. You hurt Tommy. You hurt both my moms. The line went silent for a moment. When Joseph spoke again, his voice shook. Wyatt, son, please. Don't call me son, Wyatt said firmly. Taylor's more of a parent than you ever were. At least she shows up when she says she will. Clara ended the call, pulling Wyatt into a hug as he finally let his tears fall. My phone buzzed. Connor. The SEC just froze all his accounts. The evidence is overwhelming. He's looking at 15 to 20 years, minimum. Another call came in. Gwendolyn. You need to see this. His business partners in Asia are coming forward. There are more shell companies, more fraud. This goes deeper than we thought. The news kept rolling in throughout the day. Joseph's empire crumbled hour by hour. Former employees spoke out about suspicious practices. Business partners distanced themselves. His reputation, built on lies, dissolved like smoke. That evening, as Clara prepared dinner and Wyatt taught me his favorite video game, my phone lit up with a text from Joseph. You've destroyed everything I built. I hope you're happy. I showed it to Clara, who read it and laughed bitterly. He still doesn't get it, does he? He destroyed everything himself. We just exposed the truth. Taylor? Wyatt asked, pausing our game. Are you staying for dinner? I looked at Clara, who smiled and nodded. Of course she is. She's family now. Family. The word hit me hard. In trying to tear down Joseph's perfect fake life, I'd somehow built something real, something honest. My phone buzzed one last time. Regina. Just saw the latest news. Joseph's facing additional charges for tax evasion. They're saying he might never get out of prison. Are you okay? I looked at Wyatt, showing me his game moves, and Clara humming as she cooked dinner. Then I thought of Tommy's empty room at home, still waiting to be cleared out, but not yet. Not until I was ready. I'm okay, I texted back. Better than okay. I'm healing. And for the first time since Tommy's death, it wasn't a lie. 6 months after Joseph's arrest, I stood in the courthouse corridor with Clara and Wyatt, waiting for the sentencing hearing to begin. Joseph had pleaded guilty to multiple charges of fraud, embezzlement, and money laundering in exchange for a reduced sentence. You don't have to do this, Clara said, straightening Wyatt's tie. Neither of you do. Yes, we do, Wyatt replied, sounding older than his 10 years. I want him to see us. Regina approached, holding a stack of papers. They're ready for us. Taylor, are you sure about making a victim impact statement? I nodded, clutching the folded pages in my hand. I'd rewritten my statement dozens of times, trying to capture the magnitude of Joseph's betrayal in words. The courtroom fell silent as we entered. Joseph sat at the defendant's table in an orange jumpsuit, a far cry from his designer suits. He turned as we walked in, his eyes widening at the sight of Wyatt. All rise, the bailiff called. The proceedings moved quickly. Prosecutors detailed the extent of Joseph's crimes. Over $12 million stolen, 2 families deceived, countless lives affected. His lawyer spoke of remorse, of mental health issues, of the pressure to maintain 2 perfect lives. Then it was my turn. Your Honor, I began, my voice steady. 6 months ago, I buried my 8-year-old son. While he was dying, his father was living another life, playing soccer dad to another little boy. Tommy spent his last Christmas in the hospital. Joseph told me he was at a business conference. He was actually decorating a Christmas tree with his other family. I looked directly at Joseph. But this isn't just about Tommy. This is about every lie, every moment stolen from both families. While Clara attended parent-teacher conferences alone, believing her husband was working late, he was having dinner with me. While I sat through chemotherapy appointments alone, he was cheering at Wyatt's soccer games. Joseph wouldn't meet my eyes. Good. The money he stole doesn't matter to me. What matters is the time he stole. Time Tommy could have had with his father, time Clara could have spent building an honest life, time Wyatt could have had with a dad who wasn't living a lie. Clara spoke next, her voice trembling but determined. For 10 years, I believed I had the perfect marriage. Now I know it was built on fraud. My son's college fund was stolen money. Our house was bought with embezzled funds. Every memory is tainted. Then, unexpectedly, Wyatt stood up. "Your Honor?" he asked. "Can I say something?" The judge leaned forward, considering, then nodded. "My dad missed my last 3 soccer games before he got arrested," Wyatt said clearly. "I was sad about it, but now I know he missed them because he was supposed to be with Tommy, who was really sick. He chose not to be there for either of us." Joseph finally broke, calling out, "Wyatt, please." "Mr. McDonald," the judge warned, "you'll have your chance to speak." When Joseph's turn came, he stood slowly. "Your Honor, I never meant to hurt anyone. I loved both my families. I couldn't choose. I couldn't let go." "So instead you let my son die alone," I interrupted, earning a sharp look from the judge. 25 years, the judge announced after deliberation, with no possibility of parole for 18 years. Additionally, all assets will be seized and redistributed to the victims. As the gavel fell, Joseph called out again, "Taylor, Clara, please just let me explain." But we were already walking out, Wyatt between us, heading toward a future that didn't include Joseph's lies. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited with cameras and questions. But before we could navigate through them, Wyatt tugged on my sleeve. "Can we go to Tommy's grave?" he asked quietly. "I made something for him in art class." Clara squeezed my hand. "We can take my car." At the cemetery, Wyatt placed a carefully crafted clay dinosaur beside Tommy's headstone. "I made it green because Taylor said that was his favorite color." "It's perfect," I whispered, watching as Wyatt traced Tommy's name with his finger. "Mom?" he asked Clara. "Can we put up a swing set in our new backyard? Taylor said Tommy really liked swings." Clara smiled through her tears. "Of course we can. And Taylor can help us build it," Wyatt continued, "since she's going to be living next door and everything." The decision to buy the house next to Clara's had been impulsive, but right. The money from Joseph's seized assets had made it possible, a small justice in the grand scheme of things. My phone buzzed. "Regina. Just heard from the prosecutors. They found 2 more offshore accounts. There's going to be another trial." But watching Wyatt arrange his dinosaur just so, while Clara took pictures and the autumn leaves fell around us, I realized I didn't care about more trials or hidden money. "Tell them to handle it," I texted back. "I'm done looking backward." "Ready to go home?" Clara asked, putting her arm around Wyatt. Home. Not to an empty house full of memories and lies, but to a street where Wyatt would ride his bike between our houses, where Clara and I would share coffee on weekend mornings, where healing could finally begin. "Yeah," I said, taking one last look at Tommy's grave. "We're ready." The moving truck pulled away from my Seattle house for the last time. Regina helped me pack the last box into my car while Alina carried Tommy's dinosaur collection, carefully wrapped in bubble paper. "You're sure about this?" Alina asked, not for the first time. A familiar SUV pulled into the driveway. Clara and Wyatt, right on schedule. Wyatt bounded out, wearing his dinosaur backpack. "Is that all of them? Can I see?" "Let's wait until we get to the new house," I said, ruffling his hair. "These guys need to be unpacked carefully." "I still can't believe you're moving to Portland," Regina said, hugging me tight. "Who's going to help me terrorize cheating husbands now?" "I heard that," Clara called out, laughing. "And technically, she's moving to Lake Oswego, right next door to a very nosy neighbor who makes excellent coffee." The drive to Portland felt different this time. No surveillance, no secret missions, no burning rage. Just the open road and possibility ahead. Wyatt rode with me, chattering about his plans for Tommy's dinosaurs. "We can make a special shelf in the game room," he explained. "That way when I come over to play video games, it'll be like Tommy's playing too." My throat tightened. That's perfect. At the new house, Clara had already set up a welcome party. Regina and Alina helped unpack while Wyatt supervised the dinosaur placement with scientific precision. Mail came, Clara said, handing me an envelope. From the prison. Joseph's handwriting. I'd received several letters since the sentencing, all returned unopened. This one felt different. You should read it, Clara said softly. We both should. Inside was a single page. Taylor and Clara, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know I'm getting help here. Real help. The psychiatrist says I have narcissistic personality disorder. It doesn't excuse what I did, but maybe it explains some of it. I think about Tommy every day. About how I failed him when he needed me most. About how I failed both of you and Wyatt. The therapist asked me to write down my biggest regret. It's not the fraud or the lies. It's missing Tommy's last Christmas for a fake business trip. It's checking my phone at his funeral because I was too scared to feel the pain. I've signed papers giving up all parental rights to Wyatt. Clara, you can proceed with the adoption process for Taylor. It's the least I can do for my son. Give him a parent who shows up, who puts him first, who knows how to love without lying. Don't write back. Just know I'm sorry. Know I'll spend every day in here trying to understand why I destroyed the best things in my life. Joseph. Clara wiped her eyes. The adoption papers came yesterday. Mom, Taylor, Wyatt called from upstairs. Come see, we finished the dinosaur shelf. We found him in the game room, standing proudly before a perfectly arranged display. Tommy's T-Rex held center position, surrounded by the rest of the collection. Below it, Wyatt had placed the clay dinosaur he'd made for Tommy's grave. See, he pointed. I left space for new ones, too. Because families grow, right? That's what you said, Mom. Clara pulled him close. That's right, honey. The doorbell rang. More visitors. Gwendolyn arrived with housewarming wine, followed by Connor with pizza. Soon the house was full of laughter and conversation. Speech, Regina called out, raising her glass. The hostess has to make a speech. I looked around the room. At Regina, who'd helped me uncover the truth. At Gwendolyn, who'd brought it to light. At Alina, who'd supported me through the darkness. At Clara, who'd turned from victim to sister. At Wyatt, who'd shown me love could grow even from lies. When Tommy died, I began, I thought that was the end of my story as a mother. Then I discovered Joseph's lies, and I thought revenge would write the next chapter. But standing here now, I gestured to the dinosaur shelf, where Tommy's collection watched over us all. This isn't about revenge anymore. It's about healing, about building something true from something false, about choosing family instead of fury. To family, Wyatt shouted, raising his soda can. To family, everyone echoed. Later, after the guests left and Wyatt fell asleep playing video games, Claire and I sat on the back porch of our adjacent houses, sharing the last of Gwendolyn's wine. What do we do with his letter? Clara asked. I thought about Joseph in his cell, finally facing his demons. About Tommy, who'd loved dinosaurs and never got to share them with his brother. About Wyatt, who'd turned loss into love with a child's simple wisdom. We let it go, I said. We've got better stories to write now. Inside, Wyatt stirred. Mom, Taylor, can we have pancakes tomorrow? Clara smiled. With dinosaur shapes? Obviously, he called back. I looked at the two houses, connected by more than just proximity. At the dinosaur shelf visible through the game room window. At the future we were building, one pancake breakfast at a time. Obviously, I echoed, and felt Tommy's memory smile.
The yellow daffodil on my desk feels like mockery now. Just this morning, it was hope, a small gesture from a grateful client that made me smile. Now, as I stare at my computer screen for the 100th time, those cheerful petals only remind me how quickly beauty can twist into something ugly. I refresh my banking app again. The numbers don't lie, but they don't make sense either. 3 months of partial paychecks, each one a little lighter than promised. I'd trusted the system, trusted that the occasional payroll hiccup was just that, a hiccup. But now, looking at the pattern laid bare before me, my stomach churns with the realization that I've been played for a fool. Francesca? Beatrice's voice floats over my cubicle wall. You okay? You've been awfully quiet today. I minimize my screen, forcing steadiness into my voice. Just concentrating. The lie tastes bitter. Beatrice has been here longer than I have. Does she know? Has she noticed the same discrepancies in her own checks? My phone buzzes. Sydney, my best friend, responding to my panicked texts from earlier. Girl, document everything. Screenshots, emails, timestamps. Don't confront him alone. My fingers hover over the keys, trembling slightly. The spreadsheet I've built tells a story in cold, hard numbers. Each missing dollar marks another crack in the foundation of everything I thought I knew about this place, about Nathaniel. The memory of his smile this morning, that practiced, perfect smile, makes my skin crawl now. How many times had he praised my dedication, my attention to detail? "You're the backbone of this department, Francesca," he'd say, while systematically stealing from my paycheck. I stand up, smoothing my skirt with damp palms. The walk to his office feels endless, each step echoing in my ears. Through the glass walls, I can see him laughing on the phone, relaxed in his leather chair like a king on his throne. He waves me in mid-conversation. "Listen, I'll call you back." "Yes, absolutely. Dinner at 8. He sets down his phone, fixing me with that $1,000,000 smile. "Francesca, what can I do for you?" There's something wrong with my paychecks. My voice sounds smaller than I mean it to. I hate that about myself, how I shrink in his presence. "Oh?" He leans back, radiating casual concern. "Accounting's been a bit backed up. You know how it is with the merger." I place my printouts on his desk. My hands aren't shaking anymore. "It's been 3 months, Nathaniel. I've calculated the shortfall." His smile doesn't waver, but something shifts in his eyes. "I'm sure it's just a clerical error. Why don't you leave these with me? I'll look into it personally." "I'd like to involve HR," I say, and watch his expression freeze for just a fraction of a second. He stands slowly, coming around his desk. "Francesca, Francesca, after everything I've done for you?" His voice is soft, reasonable. "This kind of accusation, it could really damage your career prospects. Is that what you want?" The threat lands like a slap. I stare at him, this man I've respected for 2 years, and see a stranger. His smile isn't warm anymore. It's a weapon. "Think carefully about your next move," he continues, placing a heavy hand on my shoulder. "We wouldn't want things to become uncomfortable." I leave his office on autopilot, my printout still on his desk. In the bathroom, I grip the cold porcelain sink and stare at my reflection. The woman looking back at me seems unfamiliar, pale, shaken, diminished. My phone buzzes again. "Sydney, what happened? Call me." But I can't call her. Not yet. Because calling means speaking the truth out loud, that my boss is stealing from me, that he's probably stealing from others, that everything I've worked for is built on quicksand. Back at my desk, the daffodil catches my eye again. Without thinking, I pick it up and drop it in the trash. Its cheerful yellow face disappears beneath a pile of shredded papers. My computer screen reflects my image, ghost-like and transparent. I barely recognize myself anymore, this woman who lets herself be threatened and dismissed. But as I stare at that reflection, something else flickers across my face. Something harder, colder, more dangerous than fear. Nathaniel thinks he knows me. The reliable Francesca, the pushover, the backbone who never complains. But he's about to learn what happens when you break someone's trust. Because the woman in this reflection, she's done being nice. The rhythmic pounding of my feet on the treadmill can't drown out Nathaniel's voice in my head. "Think carefully about your next move." My lungs burn as I push harder, faster, trying to outrun the humiliation of yesterday's confrontation. "You're going to break that thing," Sydney says from the treadmill next to mine. She's barely sweating while I'm drenched, my ponytail plastered to my neck. Our Saturday morning gym sessions usually clear my head. Today, it's just making me more aware of how trapped I feel. I punch the speed down, letting myself coast to a walk. I talked to HR this morning. Sydney's stride falters. And? Lorelei gave me the corporate runaround, said they'd look into it, but needed time to review the payroll records. I grabbed my water bottle, squeezing it too hard. She wouldn't meet my eyes, Sid, like she knew something but couldn't or wouldn't tell me. That's not normal, Sydney says, her lawyer brain clearly spinning. Have you checked if others? I tried asking Beatrice. She changed the subject so fast it gave me whiplash. The memory stings. My one work friend, and she'd practically sprinted away when I brought up paychecks. We cool down in silence, but I can feel Sydney watching me. She's known me since college. She can read the storm brewing behind my calm facade. Back in the locker room, she finally says what I know she's been holding back. You need to start looking for another job. And let him win? The words come out sharp enough to turn heads. I lower my voice. If he's doing this to me, he's doing it to others. Someone has to stop him. And that someone has to be you? Sydney's voice is gentle, which somehow makes it worse. You're talking about going up against a senior executive with friends in high places. He could blacklist you in the industry. So I should just roll over, let him steal from me? No, but... She grabs my arm as I start to turn away. Listen to me. This morning I did some digging. Nathaniel's been named in 3 separate wrongful termination suits in the past 5 years, all settled out of court, all sealed records. The bottom drops out of my stomach. How did you? I have access to legal databases, remember? The pattern's there if you know where to look. He finds whistleblowers, discredits them, forces them out. Then the company pays hush money to make it go away. I sink onto a bench, my legs suddenly weak. That's why Beatrice wouldn't talk to me. She knows what happens to people who speak up. Sydney sits beside me, her shoulder pressed against mine. You're not alone in this, but we have to be smart. Whatever you decide to do, you need proof that's impossible to ignore. My phone chimes. An email from Lorelei in HR. My hands shake as I open it. After reviewing your inquiry, we find no evidence of payroll discrepancies. All payments have been processed according to standard procedures. If you have further concerns, please discuss them with your direct supervisor. The words blur as tears of rage fill my eyes. I thrust the phone at Sydney, who reads it with a deepening frown. Look at the timestamp, she says. 6 a.m. on a Saturday? She's covering for him. They're all covering for him. I stand up, throwing my gym bag over my shoulder with enough force to make the lockers rattle. Then I'll find proof they can't cover up. Francesca. No. My voice is steady now, cold with certainty. You know what the worst part is? Yesterday, when he threatened me, he was smiling, like it was all some big joke, like I was nothing. Sydney stands too, concern etched on her face. Promise me you won't do anything reckless. I meet her eyes in the mirror. The woman looking back isn't the same one who walked into Nathaniel's office yesterday. She's harder, dangerous. I promise I'll be careful, I say, but I'm done playing by their rules. Walking to my car, I pull up my banking app one more time. The missing money still makes my chest tight, but now it's not just about the cash. It's about power, about justice, about wiping that smug smile off Nathaniel's face. I think about those 3 sealed lawsuits, about Beatrice's fear, about Lorelei's early morning cover-up. The pattern Sydney mentioned. It's bigger than just me, which means somewhere there's a paper trail, evidence. My fingers move across the phone screen, typing a message to Xavier, the investigative reporter whose card I've had in my wallet for months. I've never had a reason to contact him before, until now. I have a story you might be interested in. When can we meet? The office feels different at 6 a.m. Empty desks cast long shadows in the pre-dawn light, and every small sound echoes through the silence. My fingers move across my keyboard with practiced stealth. I've been coming in early all week, piecing together the puzzle of Nathaniel's deception one spreadsheet at a time. You shouldn't be here. I nearly jump out of my skin. Ryder stands in my cubicle entrance, his usual smirk replaced by something harder. He's holding a coffee cup from the shop down the street, the same place Nathaniel gets his morning brew. I could say the same to you, I reply, trying to keep my voice steady as I minimize my screen. Early meeting? With Nathaniel. He steps closer, setting his coffee on my desk. He mentioned you've been asking questions. Of course he has. My skin crawls at the thought of them discussing me over their morning coffee. Just trying to resolve a payroll issue. Right. Ryder leans against my desk, too close for comfort. Look, Francesca, I like you, so let me give you some friendly advice. Drop it. Why? I meet his gaze directly. Are your paychecks short too? Something flickers across his face. Guilt? Fear? But it's gone in an instant, replaced by that practiced corporate mask. I'm up for the senior analyst position. I've worked too hard to let anyone rock the boat now. The pieces click into place. That's why you're here so early. You're his new protege. Someone has to be. He straightens up, adjusting his perfectly knotted tie. Just think about what you're risking and who you might take down with you. After he leaves, I sit in the growing morning light, my hands shaking slightly. Opening my email, I find Xavier's response from last night. Coffee 9 a.m. Come alone. The cafe is busy with morning rush when I arrive. Xavier sits in a corner booth, looking exactly like his website photo. Intense eyes, pressed shirt, the kind of face that makes people want to confess their secrets. You must be Francesca. He doesn't stand, just gestures to the seat across from him. Tell me why I'm here. I pull out my laptop, turning it to face him. 3 months of doctored payroll records. Not just mine. I've found discrepancies in at least 5 other accounts. He glances at the screen, unimpressed. Payroll fraud isn't exactly front-page material. What about 3 sealed wrongful termination lawsuits? That gets his attention. And systematic intimidation of employees who speak up? Xavier leans forward, his coffee forgotten. You have proof? Some, not enough. I take a deep breath, but I know where to find more. He studies me for a long moment. Why are you really doing this? Revenge? Justice. The word comes out harder than I intend. Someone has to stop him. Justice and revenge look awfully similar from where I'm sitting. He pulls out a notebook, old-school reporter style. Tell me about the sealed lawsuits. For the next hour, I lay it all out. The missing money, Lorelei's cover-up, Ryder's veiled threats. Xavier takes notes, occasionally asking sharp questions that make me see connections I'd missed. There's something bigger here, he says finally. These numbers you've found, they're too neat, too careful. This isn't just about skimming payroll. What do you mean? I mean, he's cut off by my phone buzzing. It's a message from Beatrice. Where are you? Nathaniel called emergency department meeting. 10 minutes. My heart races. I have to go. Xavier grabs my wrist as I stand. Be careful. Men like Nathaniel, they don't just steal money, they steal lives. The department meeting is already in full swing when I slip in. Nathaniel stands at the front, radiating authority in his tailored suit. His eyes find me as I take a seat, and his smile doesn't waver. As I was saying, in light of recent concerns about our payroll system, we'll be implementing new security measures. All financial queries should now go through proper channels, meaning me. My blood runs cold as I spot Ryder in the corner, watching me with something like pity. Nathaniel's still talking, but all I can hear is the message beneath his words. I'm in control. Don't fight it. Back at my desk, a new email waits in my inbox. From an anonymous account, subject line empty. Inside is a single line. Loading dock, midnight Thursday, bring a flash drive. I stare at the words until they blur, my heart pounding. This is it, the evidence I need, gift wrapped by someone on the inside. Or it's a trap, designed to catch me in the act. Either way, I realize I'm going. Because Xavier's right, this is bigger than missing paychecks, and I'm done being afraid. The loading dock at midnight feels like a scene from a bad thriller movie. Every shadow seems to hide a threat, and the distant hum of the city sounds like whispered warnings. I check my phone again, 11:58 p.m. My flash drive feels heavy in my pocket. A door creaks behind me. I spin around, heart in my throat. Jesus, Francesca! Lorelei steps into the dim light, her heels clicking softly on concrete. I wasn't sure you'd come. Of all the people I expected to see here, our HR manager wasn't one of them. You sent the email? She nods, glancing nervously over her shoulder. We don't have much time. Nathaniel has a meeting tomorrow morning with the board. He's going to announce a restructuring. Mass layoffs disguised as cost-cutting measures. What does that have to do with the missing payroll money? Everything. She pulls out a USB drive of her own. He's been siphoning funds for months, building a cushion to protect himself when it all falls apart. The company's bleeding money, but he's making sure his golden parachute is well funded. My mind races, and the layoffs are his cover story? He's going to blame poor performance, point fingers at middle management. Meanwhile, he walks away clean with millions. She hands me the drive. Everything's here, transfer records, fake accounts, board meeting minutes. I've been collecting it for months. Why help me now? Lorelei's face hardens. Because my name's on that layoff list, along with everyone else who knows too much. A door slams somewhere above us. We both freeze. Go, she whispers. If anyone asks, you never saw me. I'm halfway to my car when I hear voices carrying across the parking lot. Nathaniel and Ryder heading toward the loading dock. I duck behind a concrete pillar, holding my breath. Sure about this? Ryder's voice, uncertain. Getting cold feet? Nathaniel's laugh echoes. Remember what we discussed. Your promotion comes with certain expectations. I know, but the layoffs are necessary sacrifices. You want to play in the big leagues? This is how it's done. Their voices fade as they enter the building. I wait 5 more minutes before racing to my car, my hands shaking so badly I can barely get the key in the ignition. At home, I plug in Lorelei's drive with trembling fingers. File after file opens before me. Spreadsheets, emails, meeting notes. It's all here, laid out in cold digital clarity. The scope of Nathaniel's scheme is staggering. My phone buzzes, Sydney calling. I've been avoiding her since our gym conversation, but right now, I need my best friend's clear head. You're still up? She answers. I need you to look at something. Now. 20 minutes later, Sydney sits at my kitchen table, scrolling through documents while I pace. This is... Jesus, Francesca. This isn't just fraud. This is systematic corruption. I have to get this to Xavier. Wait. She grabs my arm, stopping my nervous movement. Think this through. Lorelei gave you this out of nowhere after stonewalling you for weeks? She's on the layoff list. Or she's setting you up. Sydney's lawyer voice is in full effect now. What if Nathaniel put her up to this? Give you falsified documents, catch you trying to leak them? I sink into a chair, the weight of doubt crushing my chest. So I do nothing? Let him destroy people's lives? No, she squeezes my hand. But we do this smart. I know someone in the DA's office. Let me have them look at these files first. Make sure they're legitimate. There's no time. The board meeting is exactly why we need to be careful. If we move too fast and get this wrong, Nathaniel wins. I close my eyes, seeing Lorelai's face in the loading dock shadows, hearing Nathaniel's casual cruelty to Ryder. When I open them again, Sydney's watching me with concern. "Give me until morning," she says. "Please." My phone chimes, an email from Xavier. "Need to meet, have information about previous lawsuits, urgent." I show Sydney the message. She reads it twice, then looks at me with resignation. "You're going to meet him no matter what I say, aren't you?" "I'll wait for your contact to verify the files," I promise, "but I need to know what Xavier's found." She stands, gathering her things. "Just be careful. Remember what we talked about, revenge and justice looking the same in the dark." After she leaves, I sit in my quiet apartment, staring at the flash drive that could destroy Nathaniel or me. Tomorrow will change everything, one way or another. The thought should terrify me, but instead I feel strangely calm. Because Sydney's wrong about one thing, in the dark is exactly where justice needs to be right now. And I'm done being afraid of the shadows. The city stretches out below me like a circuit board of lights, each one representing a life untouched by the storm brewing in our office. I've escaped to the roof during lunch, needing space to process Xavier's bombshell from our morning meeting. The previous lawsuits weren't just about wrongful termination, he'd told me, sliding photos across the cafe table. They were about systematic harassment, intimidation, and worse. The faces in those photos haunt me now. 3 women, all like me, mid-career professionals who'd noticed discrepancies, who'd tried to speak up. All destroyed, not just professionally, but personally. The roof access door creaks open behind me. I turn, expecting the building maintenance worker who usually catches me up here. Instead, I find Beatrice. "I knew I'd find you here," she says, wrapping her cardigan tighter against the wind. "You always disappear up here when things get heavy." "How did you?" "I've worked here 8 years, Francesca. I notice things." She joins me at the railing. "Like how you've been coming in early, meeting with that reporter, digging through old files." My heart pounds. "Are you going to tell Nathaniel?" She laughs, but there's no humor in it. 4 years ago, I was you. Found similar discrepancies, started asking questions. Want to know what happened? I think of the photos Xavier showed me. You were one of the lawsuits. Almost. She stares out at the city. Nathaniel called me into his office one day, showed me pictures of my daughter at college, her dorm, her classes, her favorite coffee shop. Said it would be a shame if something happened to her scholarship. The chill that runs through me has nothing to do with the wind. He threatened your family? He never directly threatened anything. That's his specialty, making you understand the consequences without ever saying them out loud. She turns to face me. I took the promotion he offered, kept my mouth shut. My daughter graduated last year. And the missing money? The layoffs? You just accepted it? I chose my battles. Her voice hardens. But I never forgot, and I've been keeping records, real ones, not the doctored versions in the system. Everything he's done, everyone he's hurt. My hands grip the railing. Why tell me this now? Because tomorrow's board meeting isn't just about layoffs. Nathaniel's planning to announce a merger, one that will let him cash out completely while the rest of us lose everything. She pulls an envelope from her cardigan. Here's what he doesn't know exists. The real numbers, the secret accounts, everything. I stare at the envelope. Lorelai already gave me files. Fakes. Beatrice's smile is grim. She's always been his cleanup crew. Those files were bait, meant to discredit you when you tried to use them. My stomach lurches. If Sydney hadn't insisted on verification, why help me? Why risk it? Because my daughter's safe now, and because you remind me of myself before I let fear win. She presses the envelope into my hands. But Francesca, if you do this, you have to go all the way. No half measures. He'll destroy you if you give him the chance. Back at my desk, my phone lights up with a text from Sydney. DA contact confirms. Lorelai's files are manipulated. Don't use them. Another message follows. Where are you? Need to talk ASAP. But I'm staring at my computer screen, where an email from Nathaniel just appeared. My office, now. The walk to his office feels like walking into a trap. Through the glass walls, I see him waiting, that familiar smile in place. But something's different. There's an edge to it now, a predatory gleam. Close the door, he says as I enter. We need to discuss your recent activities. I do, feeling the weight of Beatrice's envelope in my bag. What activities? Please. He stands, circling his desk. The early mornings, the meetings with that reporter. Did you really think I wouldn't know? His smile widens. Did you really think Lorelai gave you those files without my knowledge? My pulse races, but I keep my face neutral. I don't know what you're talking about. No? He picks up a folder from his desk. Then you won't mind explaining these to the board tomorrow? Your falsified accusations, your attempts to damage the company. He lets the threat hang, unless we can come to an arrangement. I think of Beatrice's daughter, of the women in Xavier's photos, of how many others Nathaniel has silenced with that same smile. I'll think about it, I say, standing. His smile slips just slightly. He expected me to break immediately. Don't take too long. The board meets at 9. Walking out, my phone buzzes again. Xavier this time. Major development. Meet tonight. Bring everything you have. I touch Beatrice's envelope through my bag. Tomorrow's board meeting just became a deadline, not for Nathaniel's announcement, but for his downfall, because this time he picked the wrong person to threaten, and I'm done thinking small. Thunder rolls across the city as I hand Xavier the envelope in the nearly empty cafe. Rain pounds against the windows, matching my pulse. Everything's here, the real numbers, the secret accounts, proof of the merger. He flips through the documents, his expression darkening. This is bigger than we thought. The merger isn't just a cash grab, it's a cover-up. They're selling to a shell company Nathaniel controls. How is that even possible? Because half the board is in on it. He spreads out several papers. See these signatures? They're all connected to offshore accounts. Once the merger goes through, the company gets stripped for parts while they all walk away rich. My hands shake as I lift my coffee cup. And everyone else? Loses everything. Jobs, pensions, benefits. He leans forward. But here's what you don't know. I found one of his previous victims. She's willing to go on record. Hope flares in my chest, but before I can respond, my phone buzzes. A text from Ryder. Need to talk. It's about tomorrow, please. I have to go, I tell Xavier, standing. How long will you need to verify everything? Give me 2 hours. If it all checks out, we can stop tomorrow's board meeting before. The cafe door chimes. Lorelai walks in, freezing when she sees us. Her makeup is smeared like she's been crying. I'm sorry, she says, and for a moment I think she's talking to me. Then I see the men entering behind her. Security guards, but not from our building. Xavier moves fast, sweeping the documents into his bag. Back door, now! We run through the kitchen, ignoring the shouts behind us. The rain hits like needles as we burst into the alley. Xavier pushes me toward the street. Go, I'll hold them off. I sprint through puddles, my shoes soaked and slipping. Behind me, I hear scuffling, angry voices. My phone keeps buzzing, Ryder's messages growing more urgent. 20 minutes later, I'm in a 24-hour diner, dripping water onto cracked vinyl seats. Ryder sits across from me, looking as drenched as I feel. They took Xavier's bag, he says without preamble. Lorelai called them as soon as she saw you together. Why are you telling me this? He stares into his untouched coffee. Because I thought I wanted what Nathaniel promised. The promotion, the power, the money. But watching him destroy people? He looks up, and I see real fear in his eyes. He's going to announce the merger tomorrow, and anyone who knows the truth either disappears or becomes complicit. Like you? I saw what he did to the others, what he's planning for you. His hand shakes as he reaches for his phone. I've been recording our conversations, everything he said about the merger, the threats, all of it. Hope rises again, but I force it down. Why should I trust you? Because I'm on the layoff list too. He needed someone to blame when it all falls apart. The ambitious young executive who cooked the books. I found the paperwork this afternoon. My phone buzzes again, Sydney this time. Xavier just called. Are you safe? I have to go, I tell Ryder standing. Wait. He grabs my wrist. There's more. The board meeting, it's not at 9. He moved it to 8. He knows you're planning something. Rain is still falling as I race to Sydney's apartment. She opens the door before I can knock, pulling me into a fierce hug. Xavier's okay, she says immediately. Shaken up, but they didn't hurt him. The documents, gone. I sink onto her couch. Everything Beatrice gave me. Not everything. She hands me her laptop. Xavier emailed me copies before the meeting, and with Ryder's recordings. It's not enough. I stare at the screen, seeing Nathaniel's smug smile. The board meeting's in 6 hours. Even if we got this to the right people, then we don't go to the right people. Sydney's voice is hard. We go to everyone. Xavier has a contact at the local news station. If we can't stop the meeting, we can make sure everyone knows what happens in it. My phone lights up one last time. Nathaniel. My office, 7 a.m. Last chance to make the smart choice. Lightning flashes outside, illuminating Sydney's determined face. Whatever you're thinking, I'm with you. I think of Beatrice's daughter, of Lorelai's tears, of Ryder's fear, of all the people Nathaniel has threatened and broken and betrayed. The rain drums against the windows like a countdown. No more smart choices, I say, opening my laptop. It's time to be dangerous, because in 6 hours, either Nathaniel's empire burns, or I do. And I'm done playing by his rules. The office feels like a powder keg at 6:55 a.m. Every footstep echoes with possibility. Every shadow holds potential allies or enemies. My heels click against marble as I approach Nathaniel's office, where he waits behind glass walls like a spider in its web. My phone vibrates silently, Sydney confirming everything's in place. Xavier's news contact is standing by. Ryder's recordings are uploaded and ready. One press of a button, and it all goes public. But first, I have to give Nathaniel one last chance to destroy me. Right on time, he says as I enter, gesturing to the chair across from him. I've always appreciated your punctuality. I remain standing. The board meeting's been moved to 8. Ah, his smile doesn't waver. News travels fast. Please sit. We have much to discuss. I do, feeling the weight of my phone in my pocket. In 30 minutes, the first board members will arrive. In 65 minutes, everything changes. He slides a document across his desk. Your resignation letter, citing personal reasons, effective immediately. Sign it, and this all goes away. I'll even provide a glowing reference. Like you did for the others? His eyes sharpen. I've been more than patient with your investigation. That ends today. Sign or face the consequences. What consequences? I lean forward. The fake documents you had Lorelai plant? The security team that attacked Xavier? Or something more personal, like what you did to Beatrice's daughter? The smile finally slips. Careful, Francesca. You're making accusations you can't prove. Actually, I pull out my phone, showing him the screen. A live stream of the local news station where a banner reads, "Breaking news, corporate corruption exposed." I can prove everything. He moves faster than I expect, reaching for my phone, but I'm already standing. It's too late. The story's running. Your offshore accounts, the merger details, the threats, everything. You're bluffing. But he's checking his own phone now, face darkening as messages pour in. The door opens. Lorelei stands there, pale but determined. The board members are arriving early. They've seen the news. Nathaniel's mask cracks completely. "What did you do?" "What you taught me to do." I meet his gaze steadily. "I protected myself. Those documents you stole last night, copies, the security team you sent, recorded everything, every threat, every scheme, every person you've hurt. It's all out there now." He laughs, but it's hollow. "And you think that matters? The board will bury this. They always do." "Not this time." Ryder appears behind Lorelei, holding up his phone, "because I sent them something else. Proof of how you plan to scapegoat them in the merger. They're not happy, Nathaniel." Voices approach down the hall, angry voices, board members, executives, legal team. Nathaniel's face goes from rage to calculation to something like respect. "Well played," he says softly. "I didn't think you had it in you. But remember, you've become exactly what you hated. Using threats, manipulation, betrayal." "No." My voice is steady despite my pounding heart. "I became what you feared, someone who fights back." The door bursts open. A flood of suits and security personnel pour in. In the chaos, I see Beatrice watching from the hallway, silent tears on her face. Beyond her, other employees gather, watching their untouchable boss finally face consequences. "Nathaniel Rodriguez?" A man in a dark suit steps forward. "I'm with the SEC. We need to discuss some irregularities in your financial records." Everything moves quickly after that. Nathaniel's led away, his face a mask of cold fury. Board members huddle in corners, whispering frantically. My phone buzzes continuously. Sydney, Xavier, news outlets seeking comment. I stand at my desk later, packing my things. Not because I'm fired or resigned, but because I choose to leave. The company will survive, restructure, recover. But I need something new, something untainted by all this. "Hey," Ryder appears, looking exhausted but relieved. "The board's naming an interim CEO. They're promising full audits, transparency, the works." "Good." I close my box of belongings. "Take care of things here?" He nods, understanding. "What will you do now?" Through the windows, I can see news vans gathering below. My phone shows messages from other whistleblowers, reaching out with their own stories. Xavier's already talking about a bigger investigation. "I'm going to keep fighting," I say, picking up my box, "just differently now." As I walk out, employees stand in silent solidarity. Some nod, some smile, some just watch. I pass Beatrice's desk, where a fresh daffodil sits in a small vase, a symbol of new beginnings. Outside, the morning sun feels different on my face, warmer, cleaner, like everything that felt impossible yesterday is suddenly within reach. My phone buzzes one last time. Sydney. "Ready for breakfast? We have work to do." I smile, stepping into the light. "Yes, we do, and this time we're doing it right." The whispers follow me through the office corridors, but they're different now. Gone is the fear, the hesitation. In their place, something new grows: hope, determination, strength. I pause at my old desk, where another employee now sits. She looks up, recognition flashing across her face. "You're her, the one who exposed everything." Just someone who stopped being afraid, I say, continuing toward the conference room. The interim CEO asked me to consult on the company's new ethics policies. I agreed on one condition, that every employee affected by Nathaniel's schemes be made whole, not just financially, but with real protections moving forward. Inside the conference room, familiar faces wait. Beatrice, now head of the Employee Advocacy Committee. Lorelei, demoted but working to rebuild trust. Ryder, channeling his ambition into actual leadership instead of manipulation. The whistleblower returns, Ryder says, but there's respect in his voice now. I set my laptop on the table. Let's talk about real change. For the next hour, we draft policies with actual teeth, protection for whistleblowers, independent oversight, anonymous reporting systems. Every suggestion sparks debate, but it's healthy now, open, honest, focused on solutions instead of survival. My phone buzzes partway through, Xavier sending updates about Nathaniel's case. The evidence keeps mounting, more victims coming forward, the story growing beyond just our company. You know he still has supporters, Lorelei says during a break, her voice low. People who think you went too far, who say you destroyed something good to serve your own agenda. Let them talk. I meet her eyes. We both know the truth. She looks away first. I should have helped sooner, should have been braver. You're helping now. That's what matters. The meeting ends with real progress, real commitments. As others file out, Beatrice lingers. I have something for you, she says, pulling out an envelope. It came to the office addressed to Anonymous Hero. Inside is a letter from a young woman, Beatrice's daughter. She writes about watching her mother change over the years, about understanding now why that change happened, about feeling proud to see her mother stand tall again. She's right, Beatrice says softly. We're all standing taller now. My phone buzzes again, Sydney this time. Turn on the news, now. The break room television shows Nathaniel being led into court, his perfect smile finally cracked. But it's the headline below that catches my eye. Corporate whistleblower sparks national movement. The story isn't just about our company anymore. Other whistleblowers are coming forward across the country. Other companies facing scrutiny. Other workers finding their voice. Quite a ripple effect you started, says a voice behind me. I turn to find Xavier, looking more relaxed than I've ever seen him. Hear about the ethics policies? Actually, he grins, I'm here about your new job offer. The advocacy group I mentioned, they're ready to meet. I think about the letter in my pocket, about Beatrice's daughter seeing her mother stand tall, about all the others out there still afraid to speak up. Tell them yes, I say, but I have conditions. Back at my old desk, I watch the new occupant work. She reminds me of myself from before, head down, following rules, trying to be perfect. But when she looks up again, I see something different in her eyes, something that wasn't there in mine back then. She knows she has power now. They all do. My phone buzzes one last time as I head for the elevator. An unknown number, but I recognize the area code from the prison where Nathaniel awaits trial. I delete the message unread. Outside, the city feels different. Not because it's changed, but because I have. The buildings still stretch toward the sky. People still hurry along the sidewalks. Life still moves at its relentless pace. But now I see the hidden stories behind every window. The quiet battles being fought in fluorescent-lit offices. The small acts of courage that can spark revolutions. Sydney waits by her car, ready for our meeting with the advocacy group. Ready to change the world? I think about that first missing paycheck, about how small I felt in Nathaniel's office, about how fear can make us forget our own strength. No, I say, smiling as I get in the car, ready to help others change it themselves. Because that's the real victory. Not just finding my voice, but helping others find theirs, one story at a time, one truth at a time, until the whispers become a roar that can't be silenced. The sunset bleeds through my office window, casting long shadows across the desk where I've spent the last 4 years building someone else's dream. There's something different about tonight's light, something final. My fingertips trace the edge of my keyboard, memorizing its familiar texture, while my stomach twists with the certainty that everything's about to change. I should have seen it coming, the whispered conversations that stopped when I walked by. The way Talia's eyes wouldn't quite meet mine during our morning coffee ritual. The sudden scheduling conflicts whenever I tried to get time with Pierce. But I wanted so badly to believe I was being paranoid. My phone buzzes. Pierce's name appears on the screen. My office, now. The walk down the hallway feels like moving through water. Each step echoes against the polished concrete floors of our startup-turned empire. Engineers hunch over their screens, headphones firmly in place. None of them look up. They know what's coming, probably knew before I did. Gianna, Pierce doesn't stand when I enter. He remains seated behind his massive desk, fingers steepled like some cartoon villain. Please, sit. I remain standing. I'd prefer not to. Suit yourself, he sighs as if I'm already exhausting him. We're implementing some structural changes. The board feels we need to streamline operations, focus on core competencies. Cut the corporate bullshit, Pierce. My voice comes out steadier than I feel. Just tell me I'm fired. His lips twitch. Your position has been eliminated. Talia will be absorbing your responsibilities as part of her promotion to Chief Product Officer. The betrayal hits like a physical blow. Talia, my friend, my confidant, the person I trained myself, has been orchestrating this behind my back. All those late-night strategy sessions, all the secrets we shared. I feel sick. Effective immediately, Pierce continues, sliding a manila envelope across his desk. Your severance package is generous. Sign today, and we'll add 3 months of healthcare coverage. I want to scream. I want to flip his pretentious desk. I want to march straight to Talia's office and demand answers. Instead, I smile. You really think you can buy my silence? Something flickers in his eyes. Uncertainty? Fear? Good. The company appreciates your contributions, Gianna. But business is business. I'm sure you understand. Oh, I understand perfectly. I lean forward, placing my palms flat on his desk. I understand that you're making a massive mistake. And I understand that someday, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next month, but someday you'll realize exactly what you've lost. Are you threatening me? His voice hardens. Threatening? No. Making a promise. I straighten up, smoothing my blazer. Keep the severance package. I'd rather keep my integrity. I turn to leave, but his voice stops me. Don't do anything foolish, Gianna. Remember who holds the power here. Looking back over my shoulder, I let him see the fire in my eyes. That's your first mistake, Pierce. You think power is something you hold. I think it's something you earn. And you've just made a very powerful enemy. The door clicks shut behind me with satisfying finality. My hands shake as I gather my things, dropping family photos and spare chargers into my bag. A shadow falls across my desk. Talia. Gianna, she starts. I hold up my hand. Don't. Just don't. You have to understand, it wasn't personal. Wasn't personal? I laugh, the sound sharp enough to make her flinch. You were my best friend. I trusted you with everything, and you've been planning this for months, haven't you? Her silence is answer enough. I hope the corner office is worth it. I shoulder my bag, leaving everything else behind. Let them pack it up. Let them wonder what I took with me. Let them worry. The elevator doors slide open, and I step inside. As they close, I catch one last glimpse of the empire I helped build. The gleaming surfaces, the ambitious plans pinned to walls, the faces carefully turned away from my departure. 4 years of my life, reduced to a cardboard box and a broken trust. But they've made a critical error. They think they're writing the end of my story. Really, they've just written the beginning. I pull out my phone and open my contacts. Victoria's name stands out, my old mentor from my first startup days. The one who warned me about Pierce's reputation. The one I should have listened to. My thumb hovers over her number as the elevator descends. By the time it reaches the lobby, I've made my decision. They want to play corporate chess? Fine, but they're about to learn they're not the only ones who know how to move pieces across the board. Game on. 3 days into unemployment, and my apartment feels like it's shrinking. Empty wine bottles line the kitchen counter, a timeline of my descent from shock to rage. My phone keeps lighting up with concerned messages from my sister Elena, but I can't deal with her everything happens for a reason optimism right now. I'm scrolling through LinkedIn, torturing myself by watching Talia's profile update with her new title, when a news alert catches my eye. My hands start shaking as I read the headline, Tech Startup Quantum Dynamics Acquires Revolutionary AI Patent. The patent, my patent, the one Pierce said wasn't worth pursuing. Lying bastard. I whisper, hurling my phone onto the couch. The pieces click together with sickening clarity. All those closed-door meetings, the sudden interest in my research documentation, Talia's convenient promotion. They didn't just want me gone. They needed me gone. My laptop whirs to life as I dig through old emails, searching for proof. There, buried in a folder marked Project Phoenix, is the original patent application draft I'd sent to Pierce 4 months ago. His response, not aligned with current business objectives. Table this for now. The room spins as fury rises in my throat. I grab my keys and my laptop, needing to escape these walls before they suffocate me. The coffee shop 2 blocks away has been my second office for years. Right now, I need its familiar comfort more than caffeine. Your usual? Marco asks from behind the counter, concern creasing his forehead. Haven't seen you this week. Been busy reevaluating my life choices. I attempt a smile. Make it a double shot today. I'm halfway through my latte when Victoria walks in. Not a coincidence. This has always been our meeting spot. She slides into the chair across from me, elegant as ever in her charcoal blazer. You look like hell, darling. Thanks for coming, I say, closing my laptop. I assume you've seen the news? About quantum? She nods, eyes sharp. Pierce moved faster than I expected. Sloppy. They stole my work, Victoria, right out from under me. My voice cracks. I trusted them. I trusted her. Trust is a luxury in this industry. She reaches across the table, squeezing my hand. But betrayal? That's ammunition if you know how to use it. What are you saying? I'm saying I warned you about Pierce for a reason. I've watched him destroy careers before. But you? She leans back, a slight smile playing at her lips. You might be the first person clever enough to destroy his. My phone buzzes. Talia's name appears on the screen. After 3 days of silence, now she wants to talk? I decline the call, but seconds later, a text appears. Please, I need to explain. Meet me at Riverside Park? Victoria reads the message over my shoulder. Go, she says. But remember, everything she says is either ammunition or misdirection. Choose wisely. The park is quiet this time of day. Talia sits on our usual bench, the one where we used to eat lunch and dream up product features. She looks smaller somehow, hunched against the autumn wind. I tried to tell you, she says as I approach. I wanted to warn you, but Pierce. Save it. I remain standing, using my height to full advantage. I don't need explanations, I need answers. Did you know about the patent? She flinches. Not at first. By the time I found out, the deal was already. When? My voice could freeze hell. When did you know? 2 months ago. She stares at her hands. Pierce said if I didn't play along, I'd be next. I had to protect myself. By sacrificing me? Tears burn behind my eyes, but I refuse to let them fall. I would have protected you. That's what friends do. Gianna, please. No. I step back as she reaches for me. You don't get to ask anything of me anymore, but I want you to remember this moment. Remember how it feels, because when everything falls apart, and it will, you'll know exactly who to blame. Walking away, I pull out my phone and text Victoria. I'm in, whatever it takes. Her response comes immediately. Dinner, tonight. Bring everything you have on Project Phoenix. The sun sets behind the city skyline, painting the buildings in shades of revenge. In my pocket, my phone buzzes with another call from Talia. This time, I don't even look at the screen. They thought they could erase me. Instead, they've given me nothing left to lose. And that makes me more dangerous than they could possibly imagine. Victoria's penthouse office feels more like a war room tonight. Stacks of documents cover her glass dining table, while my laptop screen casts a blue glow across our tired faces. The persistent hum of her ceiling fan matches the buzz in my head after 6 hours of strategic planning. Run it by me again, Victoria says, swirling her whiskey. Every detail matters. The patent application wasn't just about AI integration. I pull up the original schematics. It was a complete system architecture. Pierce didn't just steal my idea, he stole the foundation for their entire next-gen platform. And the backup files? Encrypted, stored on my personal cloud drive. I manage a small smile. Some of us learned from your paranoia. Wisdom, darling, not paranoia. She taps her screen. Dorian's speaking at the Tech Summit next week. He's been pushing ethical AI development. Could be useful. I freeze at the name. Dorian Dixon, Pierce's former partner? The same. They had a spectacular falling out last year. Victoria's eyes gleam. Something about intellectual property rights. My mind races with possibilities. Dorian's reputation for integrity is legendary in the industry. If he knew what Pierce had done, a notification pops up on my screen. An email from an anonymous account. My heart stops when I see the subject line. Project Phoenix, full documentation. Victoria. My voice shakes. Look at this. The attached files contain everything. Internal memos, meeting minutes, acquisition paperwork. All proving Pierce knew about my patent's value months ago. All proving the theft was deliberate. Well, Victoria breathes. Someone's feeling guilty. Talia. The realization hits like lightning. This has to be from her. Perhaps. Victoria's tone turns cautionary. Or perhaps it's Pierce setting a trap. Anonymous evidence has a funny way of backfiring in court. She's right. Using these files would reveal our source, potentially destroying any legal advantage. But something else catches my eye. A calendar invite for tomorrow morning. Pierce is presenting Quantum's acquisition to potential investors. What if we don't need the files? I lean forward, energy surging through my exhaustion. What if we just need the right audience? Victoria's eyebrow arches. I'm listening. The next morning finds me in the lobby of the Millennium Hotel, heart pounding beneath my most expensive suit. Investors and tech journalists mill around, waiting for Pierce's presentation. I spot Dorian near the coffee station, his tall frame impossible to miss. Mr. Dixon, I extend my hand. Gianna Wheeler. Recognition flickers in his eyes. Pierce's former product lead. Among other things, I keep my voice low. I believe we share some concerns about Quantum's latest acquisition. He studies me for a long moment. Coffee? We find a quiet corner. I lay out the basics, my patent, the theft, the timing. With each detail, his expression darkens. I've suspected something like this, he says finally. Pierce's ethics have always been flexible, but proving it, I don't need to prove it yet. I glance toward the conference room doors. I just need to raise the right questions during his presentation. Dorian's lips curve slightly. Questions about the original patent application? Questions about everything. I pull out my phone, showing him my presentation badge, courtesy of Victoria's connections. Unless you think I should walk away? He considers me carefully. Walking away would be safer. I didn't come here to be safe. No, he says softly. I don't suppose you did. He pulls out a business card, scribbling on the back. This is my private number. When this goes sideways, and it will, call me. The conference room fills quickly. I spot Talia near the front, looking polished but tense. She doesn't see me slip into a seat near the middle, laptop ready. Pierce takes the stage, radiating confidence. Today, we're announcing a revolutionary step forward in AI technology. I wait until he's deep into the technical specifications before raising my hand. Could you clarify something about the core architecture? He falters slightly, finally seeing me. Perhaps we could address questions after. It's just that the design seems remarkably similar to a patent application submitted to Quantum 4 months ago. My voice carries clearly through the room. Before any acquisition discussions with Quantum. Interesting timing, wouldn't you say? The room stirs. Journalists' fingers fly across keyboards. Pierce's face hardens as he realizes what's happening. Ms. Wheeler, if you have concerns, my legal team would be happy to. Oh, I have more than concerns. I stand slowly. I have questions, and I think everyone here deserves answers. Talia's face has gone white. Phones are coming out, recording. And in the back of the room, Dorian Dixon leans forward, looking very interested indeed. Game on indeed. The aftermath of the presentation hits like a tsunami. Tech blogs explode with headlines about potential patent theft. Quantum's stock takes a dive, and my LinkedIn inbox floods with messages. But victory feels hollow when my phone lights up with an unfamiliar number. Ms. Wheeler? A clipped professional voice. This is Sandra from Blackwood Legal. We're representing Quantum Dynamics in a cease and desist action. My hands shake as I end the call. Within minutes, the email arrives. Pages of legal threats, demands for silence, warnings about malicious interference. They're trying to scare me. It's working. I forward the email to Victoria, then pace my apartment until she calls back. They're bluffing, she says immediately, but they're also desperate, which makes them dangerous. Pierce is claiming I violated my NDA. My voice cracks. Says he'll sue me into oblivion. Of course he is. You embarrassed him publicly. She pauses. The question is, are you prepared for what comes next? Before I can answer, another call comes in. Dorian. Hold on, I tell Victoria. I assume you've received their legal threat? He says without preamble. Just now, Meet me at the Grove. 1 hour. He hangs up before I can respond. The Grove is quiet for a weekday afternoon. Dorian sits at a corner table, a manila envelope in front of him. His expression is grave. Before we continue, he says as I sit, I need to know exactly what you're trying to achieve here. Justice, recognition for my work, to stop Pierce from, no. He cuts me off. The truth, Gianna, what do you really want? The question hits harder than it should. I want them to hurt like I hurt. I want them to lose everything like I did. He nods slowly. Then you should see this. He slides the envelope across the table. Inside are documents, financial records, Board meeting minutes, emails. My stomach lurches as I read. This can't be right. Pierce has been cooking the books for months. Quantum is bleeding money. The acquisition of your patent? It's their last play for survival. Understanding dawns with horrible clarity. If I pursue this, if I prove the theft, the company collapses. Hundreds of employees lose their jobs, including many who had nothing to do with what happened to you. My coffee turns bitter in my mouth. All those engineers I used to work with, the marketing team, the customer service reps, all of them casualties of my revenge. Why are you showing me this? Dorian leans back, studying me. Because 15 years ago, I was you, ready to burn everything down because I'd been wronged. Someone showed me the bigger picture. Now I'm doing the same. So I'm just supposed to let them win? The words taste like ash. No, you're supposed to be smarter than them. He pulls out his phone, showing me an email. I'm launching a new venture, ethical AI development with ironclad IP protection. We need a chief product officer. Hope flickers, but suspicion follows. Why would you trust me? Because you had the perfect chance for pure revenge today, but you chose to ask questions instead of making accusations. That shows judgment, character. He smiles slightly. Also, I've seen your patent work. It's brilliant. My phone buzzes, a text from Talia. We need to talk. It's about Pierce, and it's worse than you know. Dorian sees the message. Interesting timing. You think it's a trap? I think, he says carefully, that you have a choice to make. You can destroy Quantum and everyone in it, or you can build something better, something that makes Pierce and his kind obsolete. I stare at Talia's message, remembering the anonymous email with the documentation. If she's turning on Pierce now, what would you do? I ask Dorian. I'd remember that true power isn't in destruction, it's in creation. He stands, dropping his business card on the table. Call me when you decide. Either way, I suspect things are about to get interesting. At home, I spread everything out on my kitchen counter. The legal threats, Dorian's documents, my original patent work. My reflection in the window looks different somehow. Harder, clearer. I pick up my phone and text Talia. Tomorrow, 8 a.m. You bring proof of whatever Pierce is hiding. I'll bring coffee. Then I email Victoria. Need your advice. Things just got complicated. Finally, I open my laptop and start typing. Not a lawsuit, not a public accusation, but something else entirely. A business plan. Because Dorian's right. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. Pierce wanted a war. Instead, I'm going to build an empire. The coffee shop is empty at 7:55 a.m., except for Talia, hunched over her laptop like it might shield her from what's coming. 2 cups sit in front of her. She remembers I take mine black. The gesture would mean something if trust wasn't a luxury I can't afford anymore. You look terrible, I say, sliding into the seat across from her. She does, designer clothes wrinkled, dark circles under her eyes. Haven't slept much lately. Guilt does that. Guilt or fear. I leave the coffee untouched. Show me what you found. Her hands shake as she turns her laptop toward me. Pierce isn't just stealing patents. He's stealing everything. Look. Spreadsheets fill the screen. Financial records, transfer logs, investor reports. Each tab reveals a new layer of fraud. Pierce hasn't just been cooking the books. He's been running a sophisticated shell game with investor funds. Jesus, my throat tightens. How long? At least a year, maybe longer. Talia's voice drops. That's why he needed your patent. The AI acquisition was supposed to attract new investors before everything collapsed. And you helped him. The words taste like poison. I didn't know at first. By the time I figured it out, she wraps her arms around herself. He has dirt on everyone, Gianna. Things that could destroy careers, relationships, lives. What does he have on you? Her silence speaks volumes. My phone buzzes. Victoria. Where are you? Emergency meeting in 20. Bring your laptop. I have to go. I stand, finally meeting Talia's eyes. Whatever Pierce has on you, get ahead of it. Because when this breaks, and it will break, you don't want to be on the wrong side. Victoria's office is a hurricane of activity. Dorian paces by the window, while Victoria directs what looks like a small army of lawyers via video call. Pierce moved faster than we expected, she says as I enter. He's calling an emergency board meeting. Today. My stomach drops. To do what? To authorize a merger. Dorian turns from the window. With global tech industries, they'll absorb all of Quantum's assets and liabilities, including any patent disputes, Victoria adds grimly. If this goes through, your claim gets buried in corporate red tape for years. My mind races. When's the meeting? 2 hours. Victoria dismisses the video call. We need to move now. No. The clarity of the moment surprises me. We need to let him make the first mistake. I pull out my phone, scrolling through recent calls until I find it, the number for Sandra at Blackwood Legal. How quickly can you get me into that board meeting? Victoria's eyes narrow. What are you planning? Something incredibly stupid. I hit dial. Or incredibly brilliant. 30 minutes later, I'm standing in Blackwood's sleek conference room, facing down 3 senior partners. Ms. Wheeler, Sandra begins, regarding the cease and desist. I'm not here about that. I open my laptop. I'm here about fiduciary duty and securities fraud. The room temperature seems to drop 10 degrees. That's a serious accusation, one partner says carefully. It is, one I'm prepared to take to the SEC. I turn my screen toward them. Unless I get a seat in that board meeting, what follows is the most expensive hour of legal negotiation I've ever witnessed. But by the end, I have what I need. Official observer status at the meeting, backed by an emergency petition citing shareholder interests. My phone buzzes with a text from Dorian. Whatever you're planning, be careful. Pierce fights dirty when cornered. Another message follows, this one from Talia. He knows you're coming to the meeting. Be ready. I text back. I'm counting on it. The elevator ride to Quantum's executive floor feels like ascending to a battlefield. In my briefcase are copies of everything. The fraud evidence, the patent documentation, even Pierce's threatening emails. But my most powerful weapon is something else entirely. The truth about what happens when power corrupts. The boardroom doors loom ahead. Through the glass, I can see Pierce at the head of the table, looking confident as ever. He doesn't know that his perfect escape plan is about to become his perfect trap. My phone buzzes one last time. Victoria. Remember, you're not just fighting for yourself anymore. Make it count. I straighten my jacket, check my reflection in the chrome elevator doors. The woman looking back at me isn't the same one who walked out of this building in defeat weeks ago. Time to show them exactly what I've become. The boardroom falls silent as I take my seat. Pierce's smile doesn't waver, but his knuckles whiten around his pen. 8 board members sit between us, their expressions ranging from curious to hostile. Talia hovers near the door, clutching her tablet like a shield. Before we begin, Pierce says smoothly, I move to exclude Ms. Wheeler due to conflict of interest. Actually, I interrupt, sliding a document forward. My presence has been legally secured. But please, continue outlining the merger proposal. I'm particularly interested in the asset valuation section. His eyes narrow slightly. The game begins. For 20 minutes, I listen to him spin a masterful fiction about global tech's interest, the strategic advantages, the shareholder benefits. It's almost beautiful how elegantly he lies. And the intellectual property portfolio? I ask when he pauses, particularly the recently acquired AI patents. All properly acquired and documented. He slides a folder to the board members. As you can see. Interesting. I open my laptop because I have documentation showing those patents were developed in-house under my supervision months before any acquisition talks. The board chairman leans forward. Is this true? Ms. Wheeler is obviously bitter about her termination, Pierce interjects. These baseless accusations are supported by evidence. I project my screen onto the wall, including internal communications about deliberately suppressing the patent application to acquire it at a lower cost. Murmurs ripple through the room. Pierce's smile turns predatory. Even if true, he says, any intellectual property developed during your employment belongs to Quantum, as your termination agreement clearly states. An agreement I never signed. I meet his gaze. But that's not really what this meeting is about, is it? His expression flickers. I stand slowly, commanding the room. This merger isn't about strategic growth. It's about hiding fraud. I start sharing documents, the financial records, the transfer logs. Mr. Pierce has been systematically misappropriating investor funds through a network of shell companies. That's enough. Pierce slams his hand on the table. This is slander. It's public record. A new voice joins in. Talia steps forward, her tablet displaying additional documents. I've been gathering evidence for months. Pierce's face contorts. You treacherous little... The SEC has copies of everything. I cut in. They're very interested in speaking with you. Chaos erupts. Board members demand explanations. Pierce's lawyer frantically whispers in his ear. But I'm watching Talia, who looks simultaneously terrified and relieved. Then Pierce starts laughing. Well played, he says, reaching for his phone. But you forgot something crucial. He turns to the board. Before we continue, I'd like to share some information about Ms. Evans' activities during her early days at Quantum. Talia goes pale. The dirt he has on her, whatever it is, must be devastating. Time slows as I weigh my options. I could let him destroy her, remove a potential competitor. She betrayed me first, after all. But looking at her face, I remember all the late nights we spent building this company, all the dreams we shared. Stop. My voice cuts through the tension. Whatever you're about to say, don't. Pierce's smile widens. Protecting her now? How noble. But nothing. I move to stand between them. You want to destroy someone's life? Try mine. Unlike Talia, I have nothing left to lose. Gianna, don't, Talia starts. It's okay. I don't take my eyes off Pierce. Go ahead. Show them whatever you have. Because when you're done, I'm still going to be standing here with proof of your fraud, and they're still going to know exactly who you are. The silence stretches. Pierce's finger hovers over his phone. Then, surprisingly, he laughs again, but this time it sounds hollow. You've changed, he says quietly. You have no idea. The board chairman clears his throat. I think we've heard enough. This meeting is suspended pending an emergency audit. Mr. Pierce, please surrender your company devices and credentials to security. Everything happens quickly after that. Security arrives. Lawyers make calls. Pierce is escorted out, his face a mask of cold fury. But before he leaves, he pauses beside me. This isn't over, he whispers. No, I agree, but the next move is mine. Later, in Victoria's office, I slump in her expensive leather chair, exhaustion finally hitting. You protected Talia, she observes. Why? Because beating Pierce isn't enough anymore. I stare out at the city lights. I want to be better than him. My phone buzzes. Dorian. Board wants to meet tomorrow about that CPO position. Victoria reads over my shoulder. What are you going to do? I think about Pierce's face as he left, about Talia's gratitude, about the weight of choices and consequences. I'm going to build something, I say finally, something he can't touch. But first, I have to survive whatever he's planning next, because men like Pierce don't lose gracefully. They burn everything down on their way out, and the fire is just getting started. The Tech Innovation Summit buzzes with nervous energy. Everyone's talking about Quantum's implosion, about Pierce's disappearance after the board meeting. I adjust my presentation slides one last time, trying to ignore the whispers that follow me through the conference hall. Ready? Dorian appears at my elbow, looking sharp in his keynote speaker suit. As I'll ever be. I check my phone. Still no response from Victoria. She was supposed to be here an hour ago. She'll make it. He reads my mind with unsettling accuracy. Focus on the announcement. This is your moment. He's right. In 20 minutes, we're announcing our new venture, an ethical AI development company with revolutionary patent protection protocols. My patents, my design, my redemption. A movement catches my eye. Talia slips into the auditorium looking anxious. She gestures urgently for me to join her. Give me 2 minutes, I tell Dorian. Pierce is here, Talia whispers when I reach her. And he's got something planned. Victoria tried to warn you, but he... Where is she? My chest tightens. Hospital, minor car accident. She's okay, but... Talia grabs my arm. He orchestrated it, Gianna. To get her out of the way. The pieces click together. The announcement. He's going to try to stop it. Worse. She pulls out her tablet. Look what just dropped on every major tech news site. My stomach lurches as I read. Anonymous sources claiming I stole the AI architecture from Quantum's secure servers. Fabricated evidence suggesting I orchestrated the company's collapse for personal gain. Pierce's final play, destroying my credibility before I can rebuild. The timing isn't coincidental, Talia says. He wants you to see this right before you go on stage. He wants you to break. My hands shake as notifications flood my phone. Journalists wanting comments. Investors expressing concern. Everything we've built, everything I fought for, balanced on a knife's edge. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer's voice booms. Please welcome our keynote speaker, Dorian Dixon. What are you going to do? Talia asks. I straighten my spine. Change the game. Dorian takes the stage to enthusiastic applause. Right on cue, Pierce slips into the back row, looking satisfied. He doesn't see me approaching until I'm right beside him. Enjoying the show? I whisper. He doesn't flinch. Come to beg me to retract the story? No. I smile, channeling every ounce of his own cold confidence. Come to thank you. That gets his attention. You taught me something valuable, I continue as Dorian begins his speech. Power isn't in patents or positions, it's in truth. Truth? He scoffs. Look at your phone, Gianna. Look what truth gets you. I'm about to show you. Dorian's voice rises. And now, I'd like to introduce our Chief Product Officer and co-founder. I stand straightening my jacket. Pierce's eyes widen as he realizes what's coming. You can't... Watch me. The lights feel warm as I take the stage. Hundreds of faces stare back at me, some recognizing me from the news stories they've just read. Perfect. Thank you, Dorian. My voice carries clear and strong. Before we announce our new venture, I want to tell you a story about power, corruption, and the cost of silence. For the next 10 minutes, I lay it all bare. The patent theft, the fraud, the manipulation, but most importantly, the evidence, all of it, displayed on the massive screen behind me, including security footage from Quantum servers showing Pierce himself downloading my original designs. Innovation isn't built on theft, I conclude, watching Pierce's face turn ashen. It's built on integrity, which is why our new company's first product isn't just an AI platform. It's a blockchain-based patent protection system designed to make theft impossible. The audience erupts. In the back, Pierce stands, heading for the exit. But security, arranged by Dorian, is already waiting. One more thing, I say into the microphone. To the anonymous sources claiming I stole Quantum's technology, check your inboxes. The SEC just released their preliminary findings. Truth has a funny way of coming out. Later, after the handshakes and interviews, I find Talia waiting backstage. That was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid, she says. Why not both? I'm still shaking with adrenaline. Thank you, for the warning, for everything. She shakes her head. I owed you that and more. My phone buzzes. Victoria, from her hospital bed. Told you you didn't need me, but next time, let's stick to metaphorical explosions. I laugh, feeling lighter than I have in months. Through the curtain, I can hear Dorian fielding questions about our launch timeline. The future stretches out bright and possible. Pierce taught me about power, but I learned about strength on my own, and I'm just getting started. The setting sun paints my new office in shades of amber, so different from the sterile fluorescence of Quantum. A stack of employment contracts sits on my desk. Our first wave of hires starts tomorrow. Among them, a bright-eyed developer named Alyssa, who reminds me of myself 4 years ago. My phone lights up with a news alert. Former Quantum CEO accepts plea deal. I don't need to read it. I was there this morning watching Pierce's carefully constructed facade finally crumble in the federal courthouse. A knock at my door pulls me from the memory. Got a minute? Dorian asks. Several, actually. I gesture to the visitor's chair. First time I've had breathing room in weeks. He sits, sliding a folder across my desk. The board approved your proposal. Full autonomy on the mentorship program. I open the folder, scanning the documents. Everything I asked for, resources, funding, support staff, a real chance to change how the industry develops talent. There's something else. Dorian's tone makes me look up. Talia reached out. She's starting a consulting firm focused on ethical business practices, wants to partner with us on compliance training. The irony almost makes me laugh. What did you tell her? That it was your call. I stand walking to the window. Below, San Francisco bustles with evening energy. Somewhere out there, Pierce is facing the consequences of his choices. Somewhere else, Victoria is probably terrorizing her physical therapist with demands to return to work. You know, I say slowly, someone very wise once told me that true power isn't in destruction. It's in creation. Sounds like a smart person. He has his moments. I turn back to face him. Tell Talia yes, but with conditions. Everything transparent, everything above board. You sure? No. I smile. But that's kind of the point, isn't it? Trust isn't about being sure. It's about being brave enough to try again. Another knock interrupts us. Alyssa stands in the doorway, looking nervous but determined. Sorry to interrupt, but I had some ideas about the patent protection system, improvements on the blockchain integration. Come in, I say, recognizing the fire in her eyes. Show me what you've got. As she spreads her diagrams across my desk, enthusiasm pouring out, I catch Dorian hiding a smile. I'll leave you to it, he says, heading for the door. Oh, and Gianna? Victoria called. She's breaking out of rehab tomorrow. Her words, not mine. I laugh. Some things never change. For the next hour, I listen to Alyssa's ideas. They're rough but brilliant, exactly the kind of innovation I once brought to Pierce. But instead of stealing her work, I grab a marker and join her at the whiteboard. Okay, I say, let's build on this, together. Later, after Alyssa leaves clutching pages of notes and practically vibrating with excitement, I find myself alone in the quiet office. My reflection in the window looks serene, powerful, but not in the cold way Pierce wielded power. This feels different, warmer, real. My phone buzzes one last time. A text from an unknown number. You won. Congratulations. I delete it without responding. He still doesn't understand. This was never about winning. It was about choosing who I wanted to become. The night air feels crisp as I lock up the office. Tomorrow brings new challenges. Victoria's inevitable takeover of our PR strategy. Talia's complicated redemption attempt. Alyssa's boundless energy. But for the first time since that sunset in my old office, I'm not afraid of what's coming. I pass the security guard, returning his warm smile. Good night, Ms. Wheeler. Good night, Marcus. I pause at the door. Actually, it's Gianna. Just Gianna. Outside, the city lights twinkle like possibilities. I think about Pierce, about power, about the thin line between vengeance and justice. He taught me how to fight, but I learned how to build on my own. My car chirps as I unlock it, but I don't get in right away. Instead, I look up at my office window, at the company I'm creating, at the future stretching out before me. Pierce wanted to write my ending. Instead, he just wrote my beginning. And this time, I'm holding the pen.